Nicolette Bell, her deputy Adrian Mop, and head of the investigating directorate Andrea Johnson. They'll all have 2 hours each to face the panel. Khomzo Modise, Eyewitness News.
Acting Police Minister Firoz Kachalia says more than 10,000 murder charges were referred for prosecution in the 2024-2025 financial year alone. But Kachalia says there are interventions that have been agreed upon to improve the murder detection rate, like focusing on murder cases with forensic leads. Kachalia was responding in a written parliamentary reply about his department and what it is doing to try to mitigate the high murder rates in the country. Babalondenza reports.
According to the latest quarterly crime statistics, murders decreased in South Africa during the first and second quarters of the current financial year. But the stats still show how 63 people are murdered in the country every day, with more than 11,500 murders over the same period. In a written parliamentary reply this week, Acting Police Minister Firoz Kachalia says 10,074 charges of murder have been referred for prosecution in the last financial year. But Kachalia says there are interventions like the prioritization of murder cases with forensic investigative leads in cooperation with the police's forensic science laboratory. Kachalia also states that there is the enhancement of tracing operations on wanted known suspects as a key element of Operation Shanela 2, which is a weekly high-density operation that is conducted in all high crime station areas countrywide. Babalondenza, Eyewitness News.
The ANC says it will not be forcing its members to choose between the party and its alliance partner, the SACP. Dual membership between the two organizations has been a long-standing tradition, but with the SACP now contesting elections alone, it has become an issue. The ANC says people with dual membership were not excluded from its 5th National General Council, which is taking place at the Birchwood Hotel in Boksburg. Tabiso Koba is there.
On the first day of the ANC's NGC on Monday, the SACP's Deputy General Secretary Madala Masuku was repeatedly heckled by the delegates while making a speech. ANC National Chairperson Gwede Mantashe repeatedly had to intervene on his behalf, unsuccessfully. Mantashe is part of many that hold a dual membership between the ANC and the SACP.
As dual membership, every individual will take a decision, not the ANC NEC. It is not the NEC's decision, it is my decision. What do I want to do with my membership? I'm a member of both parties, and I will have to decide which party I campaign for.
Mantashe was asked which of the parties he will vote for.
I will vote for the ANC. I'm the national chairperson of the ANC.
Part of the discussions in the ANC's NGC is the future of the alliance. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
And 12 people have died in a fire that broke out in a residential building in southern China. The blaze at the 4-story building in Shantou, Guangdong province erupted last night. The cause of the fire is unclear at this stage, and it comes after a huge blaze last month engulfed several high-rise residential towers in Hong Kong, killing 160 people. Gold is trading at $4,213.15 an ounce. The rand is at 17.03 to the dollar, 22.67 to the pound, 19.81 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $61.98 a barrel.
There's queuing traffic on the N3 North between the Geldenes interchange and the Gilulis interchange while travelling on the M1 South in Bramley. An accident reported right near Coilet Drive. Delays coming out of Grayston Drive.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with afternoon showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 26 and 28. The top story in EWN this hour. Interviews for the country's top prosecutor posts are set to be held in Pretoria today.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
6 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this Wednesday, the 10th day of December. It's great to have you with us here on 702. I trust you're well this morning. So, we've decided to postpone our year-end review that we had planned for today on the show because we had some unforeseen circumstances yesterday, because planning outside broadcasts can be that complicated. But we'll still do it on another day once the issues are resolved. But thank you so much to all of you that have RSVP'd. I know me and my colleagues were so looking forward to it. But we'll still do it, and we'll give you the details of the new date. We kick off the show, though, with the 702 open line. You can give us a call on 011-883-0702 or send us a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. Don't you miss the Madlanga Commission or the Parliamentary Committee? And how are you doing without those commissions or inquiry? Do you miss the hearing? Because I do. And I bet you some of you who used to follow them religiously are probably having some withdrawal issues as well. Are you one of those that used to follow the commissions? And how did you balance work, if you are working, or school, if you're studying, with the testimonies at these commissions? I think we haven't really paid too much attention to the Nkabinde inquiry. And there have been fireworks there too. I played you some clips from that commission yesterday. Have you been watching the Nkabinde inquiry, or were you stuck with the Madlanga Commission or the parliamentary inquiry? And which one had your attention? Give us a call or send a WhatsApp voice note. And do you think the ANC renewal program is bearing fruit? You may have seen and heard this buzzword renewal at the ANC's National General Council taking place in Boksburg. ANC members and leaders have gathered there to review the organization's performance as well as those of its leaders. And as expected, the renewal agenda is the theme of the forum. Listen to what President Cyril Ramaphosa said as he was reminding members of the ANC and leaders about the need to renew the organization.
The ANC's program of organizational renewal is showing progress. The SG will report on this in the medium-term report that he will present shortly. There is still important work to be done, and the movement must continue to attend to both organizational and ideological renewal. And unless the ANC succeeds in renewing itself, we will perish. We must build better and activist branches. We must revive sectorial work. We must strengthen the alliance. We must reassert ANC values and principles and strengthen organizational integrity. The ANC appointed the first renewal commission during 2017 and 2022 term, with a main brief to develop an ANC Vision 2032. The discussion document on the vision was completed and presented to the NEC and the National Conference in 2022. Vision 2032 will be made available to NGC delegates to consider as part of their commission deliberations. The second renewal commission highlights the need to continue strengthening the key elements as parts of renewal. And these include organizational design, cadre development, integrity, and revolutionary morality.
Integrity, the president says. Here is the ANC veteran, Jeff Khadebe, also speaking about the renewal agenda at the NGC.
What is very important is that the coming local government elections in 2026 will be the litmus test of showing whether this rebuilding and renewal program is bearing fruit. But we are very confident with the dynamism of the people that are there, especially young people and women who are part of those who are putting their shoulders to the wheel to drive this program of renewal.
Do you think the renewal agenda of the ANC is bearing fruit? And what does the ANC have to show for this renewal agenda, which the party has been talking about for so many years? What does the ANC have to show for that? I mean, I think it would be unfair to argue that nothing has happened. And maybe the problem here is that implementation maybe has been slow. But the party has been preaching the message too loud, but the implementation has probably been quite slow. So what's your assessment of the ANC's renewal agenda? Do you think it's taken shape? Do you think the ANC has demonstrated its seriousness about renewal, about cleansing the party? Tony Leon actually wrote an interesting opinion piece on News 24 today titled Ramaphosa's Renewal Deja Vu. Same pitch after 13 years of failed delivery. It's quite an interesting piece. You must check it out if you can. But let me know what your thoughts are on the renewal agenda of the ANC. Has it taken shape? What do you think the ANC has to show for it? What has it done to demonstrate it's serious about renewal and cleansing the organization? Give us a call on 011-883-0702. I'll take your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702. And then the interviews for South Africa's next NPA head are officially beginning today. And this marks quite an important moment for the NPA because Shamila Batohi prepares to retire in January next year. So we had a total of 32 people applying for this position, and an advisory panel has shortlisted 6 candidates who met all the requirements. In fact, the 6 candidates are not really shortlisted. They are the only ones out of the 32 that meet the minimum criteria. And the Minister of Justice was actually telling me about 2 weeks ago during an interview that this is concerning. She said that, people think that the job is a poison chalice. She says some other people are afraid of what's happening at the different inquiries where the NPA head is asked some really tough questions during testimony. But also, there's the issue of a salary for the head of the NPA, because that's another deterrent. It's not competitive. In fact, the minister said that what she wants to do is to start engagements with the president to try and see if they can make that salary competitive. But yeah, so those being interviewed are Nicolette, Bell, Hermione Cronier, Andrea Johnson, Olisile Jennifer Kanyile, Adrian Mop, and the former NDPP Menzi Simelane. The interviews are taking place today and tomorrow in Pretoria, and the new appointment will obviously play a key role in shaping the future of the prosecuting authority. So all eyes are going to be on the panel's final recommendations in the coming weeks. And I want to know if you have a favorite for the position of NDPP to replace Batohi from this list of 6 people. But also, I wonder on a lighter note, if you've ever gone through a tough interview process where there was a lot of scrutiny. What was that like for you? What's been the toughest interview process you have gone through? And out of these candidates, is there anyone here that you feel could do the job much, much better of NDPP? Give us a call or send a WhatsApp voice note. Here's what we're doing between 10 and 11 o'clock. We're going to be in conversation with Vusumzi Ngande, who is the author of Journey Kwantu, Exploring African Spirituality and Identity. I've really enjoyed his book. It's been so insightful, and I think there's a lot that you and I can learn from some of the things that he explores in the book. So he's going to join us between 10 and 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Listener's Choice feature and wrap up the show at 11:30 with the Sharing Space. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
No, Clement, I do miss the commission, even though I don't have an opportunity to listen to everything, but I listen in between because of work. So yeah, no, I do miss it. I don't miss the ad hoc. Ad hoc, I just think it's just, I don't know. It's like people are laughing, giggling there. And I'm not saying it's got no part in our democratic, processes, but I just find it to be a bit playful. It's just playful.
And I mean, that's a political process. So, of course, politicians are going to be grandstanding. But there have been some important moments at the ad hoc committee, no? I think there have been some moments. I mean, we've spoken before on the open line about some of the members of parliament that have been quite impressive with the questions they've been asking. But also, yeah, some of them have been grandstanding. At the end of the day, it's a political process, and we did warn about this from the beginning. you should expect that politicians and even parties, that's why we've even had a discussion that you can tell from the questions members of parliament are asking in the ad hoc committee as to which side they are on and which witness or which testimony they're against or they believe. It's almost like it's a position the organization has taken. But that's what happens in parliament. That's why there are caucus meetings, because you get told what the position of the party is on certain issues, including on the matter of the ad hoc committee and the people who often come to testify. So I get you. There have been some moments at the ad hoc committee that I thought were so key. But I also think at the Madlanga Commission, especially in the beginning, there were moments where it was lukewarm. The robust questions were not there. You know, I've expressed that frustration here. I think some of the listeners have as well. But of late, you know, it's been fascinating listening to and watching the Madlanga Commission. I mean, every time from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, I would always either catch up or if it's live, my television will be on the Madlanga Commission. So there have been some incredible moments there. Do you miss those commissions? Have you moved to the Nkabinde inquiry? What's really captured your attention and how did you navigate work and school if you're studying with, of course, following and getting the latest from these commissions?
Hey, Clem. So on the Madlanga note, yes, I am experiencing withdrawal syndromes. I don't know what to do with myself during the day. Hopping around radio stations. But while we're on that, can we give props to the Madlanga Commission for putting black women advocates out there? I mean, it's been so wonderful to watch, and big up to that.
In the team, I miss Madlanga because just the hearings, when they stopped the hearings, I just didn't know what to do on a Monday. So yeah, but with the renewal of the ANC. Yeah, I don't know, like the renewal of the ANC is a joke. If you think about when Cyril started with the renewal thing, brand, if I can put it that way, how much money have we lost? How many ANC people have they been implicated in a scandal, another scandal? So there's no renewal. There's just playing with people's emotion here. There's no renewal at all. None whatsoever. There isn't. It's just a joke. It's just a joke.
Morning, Clement. ANC, what is it that they're trying to renew? How can you try to renew something while your president is accused of being found with dollars? Yet again, some leaders in the NEC members are still accused of corruption, but yet they are still there. They are still there. So what is it that you're trying to renew? They're just trying to renew something that is dead. The ANC won't come back.
But guys, let's be fair a bit. Are you telling me that you have not picked up anything the ANC has done, as small as it can be, it may be, that suggests to you that the party is trying to renew itself? Maybe take the step aside resolution, maybe. The step aside resolution, isn't that maybe perhaps a sign of renewal? Because ANC claims that through that, they are demonstrating that once somebody has been charged, the organization's position is that they've got to step aside from party activities. Like, Malusi Kigaba, for instance, is not engaging in party activities, if I'm not mistaken, because of the step-aside rule. Look at Senzo Mkhunu. Didn't he take leave or take time from party activities from the ANC? Because of the allegations that he's facing, he wants to focus on that, but you don't want to also drag the organization. I was surprised to see Bekele at the NGC. What a brave man. Huh? He rocked up at the NGC. I saw videos of journalists trying to speak to him on day one, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I was like, he couldn't even be at home and decide to watch it from, follow it from television. He rocked up there. But I think that it would be unfair of us to think the ANC has not done a single thing to try this process of renewal. I mean, and look, I agree. I've always criticized the ANC about talking about the renewal agenda, but being very slow on implementation. The Integrity Commission and the teeth or lack thereof of the Integrity Commission and what that actually means. I just think that it's so loud. Like the ANC is so loud about this buzzword, but it's quite slow when it comes to implementation. And maybe they've got some really solid things on paper that speaks to the issue of renewal, but the party is not renewing itself fully, as we have been told over the last over 10 years or so, that this is a path that the organization has taken. And there are also lots of things that are happening that make you wonder, is this organization really serious about renewal?
Good morning, Mr. Stylish Manyathela. To tell you the truth, Manyathela, I think the ANC is a bit too late. They are very, very late. I don't think, if South Africans are thinking, if South Africans are in their right mind at this point, ANC should not even come back. The only thing that is disturbing South Africans is, okay, if we are not voting for the ANC, then who? That's the challenge that we have as South Africans. Who are we putting in? But so far, South Africans have been failed by the ANC. It looks so bad, and you can even see the people in power. They are very corrupt. Every day we learn a new thing. I mean, it's bad, Clement. They're a bit too late. I don't know what we're going to do, but they're late. Matlats in Midrand.
Clement, I just want to say, this is Reggie. I just want to say to you, there is no renewal that's going to work, guys. We just need to throw the bath water with the baby, with the ANC. It's really not going to work. What are we hoping for, guys? I think what the Commission of Inquiry, the one that we saw recently, or we experienced recently, the Matanga with the ad hoc committee of the parliament have demonstrated is that we really just need a new government. We need to clean up everything because the road goes really deep. So there is no renewal that's going to work. And the funny part, Clement, is how do you trust a party that is too broke to pay its staff? Like, it's so funny. Like, if they are so broke to pay their staff, imagine the greed in there, right? How would they actually be able to take care of the entire population? Interesting.
Clement, good morning. Renewal for the ANC is impossible because this organization, in my view, was organized and designed for the comrades, never for the people. And therefore, people are unhappy with how ANC run the state affairs. And they have been given 30 years and they blew so many opportunities to improve and transform the lives of ordinary people of South Africa. So they must just forget the support will obviously dwindle because people are unhappy, and that's it. They must forget it. Anonymous.
Yeah, in fact, I saw The Citizen is running an article with the headline ANC becoming a rural party. I think they're basing this on a report by the Secretary General of the ANC, but also how the analysts they've spoken to are reading that report, which looks at just the support of the organization in the various provinces. Let's go to your calls now. Cindy, you're calling us from Kagiso. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement.
Hey, Tara.
If somebody can define renewal for me in the context of the ANC, to me, I think that will also assist me. The people who want renewal, the very same person, the president, let's start with him because he's the president of the party. He himself doesn't have integrity. Look at the Palapala. Look what the ANC is doing to suppress that. Look the shenanigans that is involving. the CR17 where he sealed documents. Where is the integrity there? The people that are in his cabinet who are appointed to be, some of them questionable, and they are running the government. You know, the ANC has this thing of saying you step aside if you are charged, but you can stay in government. So you're not good enough to be in the ANC if you are charged, but you are good enough to be in government and run the institutions of this country. So there's no integrity in the ANC, but they want renewal. They've been singing that song of renewal, I don't know for how long, and they are saying renewal of the ANC. What about the rest of the country? And you asked the question, a very important question, that can you point out a single thing that the ANC has done? There's many things that I can point out, but in that same breath, the very same things that they have done are far, far much less than what they should have done for this country. And everything that we say the ANC has done, it's not because of the ANC's pockets or ANC's money. This is the citizens' money that we're supposed to use productively, but they've been wasting it with this corruption that they have, pocketing the money, and the citizens are suffering because of it. So you talk about integrity, but they themselves, starting with their president, they don't have integrity at all. So I'm not sure what this integrity thing
are they all tainted, Cindy?
You talk about integrity, you talk about.
Are they all tainted though? Let's look at the top leadership of the ANC. Let's do a quick test, right? If there's anybody who is, without any blemishes. When you look at the president of the ANC, you've already mentioned Phala scandal, right? Monies were being put in a sofa, and I mean, there's still no rational explanation for that. And then the deputy president of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, controversy there. He's got children that have somehow benefited from the Gauteng government at some point. And there are investigations to that regard. He's got unexplained wealth from the reports that we've seen, but also he is associated with quite problematic characters. He doesn't see anything wrong with having gone to stay at a house of Edwin Sodi, a house at some point that was attached. That was attached because of the corruption allegations that were being investigated in Cape Town. Like, even as a senior leader of the organization, surely you must say, okay, fine, I can still be your friend, but I don't think I want to make it obvious that I somehow am benefiting even from your properties that investigators are still looking into. The Secretary General, the Treasurer General doesn't have any scandals, does he? The Deputy Secretary General, Nomvula Mokonyane, well, we know about Bosasa. Gwede Mantashe, the chairperson, we know about Bosasa, how he benefited. So who's without any controversy there? I think for now I can only point out to the Treasurer General of the ANC and the second Deputy President of the ANC, Ramaphosa.
I'm glad you are answering your own question.
I am actually. I realize it.
You are actually answering what you just asked me, because there's no way of getting away from this thing. They are all tainted somehow, and including when Clement, just my last point, including by knowing exactly what the others are doing and you keep quiet, by just keeping quiet and not saying anything. They can cover for each other. Ufikile Mbalula once told us that we actually protected Zuma, knowing very well that he's guilty of using state money for Inkatha. We kept quiet.
Maybe that was before renewal.
As Ramaphosa leaves, they're going to say things about him. They're going to, they've been talking renewal since from when? From forever.
Yeah, they have.
Renewal. Now they are talking that they've got this educational whatever, that you need to go and do some course to learn how to have integrity. That thing, you don't learn it from school. You have to have it inside of you.
Absolutely, yeah. Conscience. Sindile, thank you so much for your call in Kagiso. So, the top leadership of the ANC, let me ask the same question to you. Do you think, I mean, the Treasurer General of the ANC, I have not come across any controversies involving the Treasurer General of the ANC. I haven't come across any controversies involving the second Deputy Secretary General of the ANC. Is it Marupin Ramokgopa, I think, yeah. So those are the two. But with Fikile, you'll remember the reports in the past around, was it SETGAS? Remember, it was an EWN report back in the day by Barry Bateman. And the report suggested that he had benefited in some way to when he was still sports minister. But he has, of course, disputed that. But there's still questions around how is it that there can be a company that somehow is a beneficiary of the department that you oversee, and somehow they give you a loan or they pay for your trip to go overseas with your family. There have always been questions around that. And there are other controversies perhaps that you can mention. But I think if we're using the top leadership of the ANC just as a litmus test, or even the NEC members, do you think on that basis this renewal is taking shape? It's 9:31. Swiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Interviews for the country's top prosecutor post are set to be held in Pretoria today. 3 hopefuls vying for the National Director of Public Prosecutions post will appear before a panel. The successful candidate will succeed Advocate Shamila Batoyi, whose term ends next month. Anti-corruption civil society bodies are calling for an independent whistleblowing agency and mandatory protection for families. Stellenbosch University's Anti-Corruption Centre yesterday held the first Babita Deokaran Memorial Lecture on World Anti-Corruption Day. The Inclusive Society Institution and the Organisation Undoing Tax Abuse bemoaned inadequate legislation to protect whistleblowers. And Brazil's parliament has descended into chaos as conservative lawmakers continue to push a law which would reduce the prison sentence of former President Jair Bolsonaro. One lawmaker was forcibly removed by police after trying to disrupt proceedings, while footage shows scuffles breaking out as security tries to restore order. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traffic remains heavily backed up on the M1 South between Greyston Drive and Corlett Drive due to an earlier accident. There's also queuing traffic along the R21 South. This is in the Kempton Park area, Isander, and this is due to roadworks that are taking place right near Barber Road, and the delays are as you come out of the OR Tambo Airport. But if you're traveling towards the airport, you don't have any issues to worry about. If you're traveling on the N12 as well as the R24 West, there's queuing traffic between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange, about a 15-minute delay there. And there's also slow-moving traffic in Alexandra along the N3 North between Vincent Chabalala Road and Marlborough Drive. Out in the city of Tshwane, we've got some delays reported along the R80 East Mabopane Highway approaching Eskiampahlele exit. And if you're heading towards the city of Tshwane, please be on the lookout for some delays taking place on the R21 North just as you approach Olifantsfontein Road. More updates at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
But in the end, this is good for Australia, and it might potentially be good for all of us in the world, isn't it?
It's always, about a campaign of change, a culture of awareness, and anything can be worked around. I mean, that's the nature of humanity and the nature of being a teenager.
Kate Farina is the head of strategy at Smartphone Free Childhood South Africa. Tabang, you are in Sebokeng. You've got some thoughts on this.
I'm concerned we're not able to restrict online gambling for those underage. It's a mountain to climb. I don't know. That is my thinking.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Every December, it's the same story. New toys, new clothes, and more takeaways. And by January, the bonus is gone. Grow it, don't blow it. With a Nedbank investment. Invest 100,000 Rand or more in a Nedbank 12-month electronic fixed deposit account and stand a chance to win 50,000 Rand. Invest your bonus and grow your future. See money differently. Nedbank. We're licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Last December, you put in new floors. Come New Year's, your visitors were out the door. And the new floor went from fresh tiles to don't step on a crack or you'll break umama's back. Now, abantu bazotini when they see the kids playing the Squid Game's hopscotch on those same cracked tiles from last year. Avoid the embarrassment this festive. Make smarter decisions for your home. Visit Cash Build for quality tiles, adhesive and tools at the lowest prices. Cash Build.
Kick off to glory with Hollywood Bids and Aziz Shege be in the game. Go full speed ahead with the epic competition. You stand to win a share of 4 million Rand in cash and prizes, including an all-new Toyota Corolla Cross. Bet 10 Rand or more on any soccer fixture or fixtures online or at your nearest branch. Live life in the fast lane. Bet now for your chance to score.
T's and C's apply.
Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
24 minutes before 10 o'clock. We are continuing with your calls on 011-883-0702 on the 702 open line. Your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702 about the ANC's renewal agenda. Have you seen it take shape? What has the ANC done that has somehow demonstrated to you that it's serious about the renewal agenda? Or what has it done to show you that this renewal agenda is just a buzzword, but they're not serious about implementing it? Joshua, you're in Alexandra. Good morning.
Morning,
Joshua.
Clement. How are you? Yeah, all right. Lovely. Hey, look, we are currently, it's like, the ANC is like a stuck bus that is relying heavily on the South Africans to push it forward. We have ministers that are from the ANC and the president is from the ANC. We have KPIs that they are supposed to be implementing or maybe monitoring. So we can't have a party that we are paying them to do their job while they have to come and say they rely on Madlanga Commission or this commission. The first thing, the primary principles that they're supposed to be implementing these policies and procedures is the very same ANC that is there in government. Mm-hmm. So they were supposed to, they have the KPIs. If we have a minister and he is failing, whether it's a minister of water, whatever, before you can have a whistleblower, they are there. They have the monitoring system that they have to monitor. The KPIs are monitored monthly or quarterly or half yearly or yearly. So before it reaches to a whistleblower, they should have seen that. People were complaining about water, so they wait for a whistleblower. People were complaining about this PPP procurement of these PPEs in Tembisa Hospital. Before it goes to the whistleblowing, then minister, where are the ministers of health? Where were they? So they are the ones to be held accountable before we even look into the whistleblowing people and into Madlanga Commission. Because now we are paying double figures for what they should have done, and even it's worse even when you get Madlanga, it's coming up that amount, these commissions. But while they are primary principles that we need to hold them accountable, why do we have to pay them the salaries? They're going to hire somebody else to do their job. They are shifting the blame because if they are the ones to hold their own comrades accountable.
Joshua in Alexandra, thank you for your thoughts.
Hi, Clement. Yes, I really do miss watching the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee. So I'm currently at home, so my job is just to look after the house. So I'll listen even while doing house chores, the laundry, cleaning, and I'm just, when someone says something ridiculous, I'll just walk to the TV and be watching in amazement. But I really do miss it. No, I wasn't really into the Kabinde commission because I don't really think I have a full comprehension of what it's about. No, I wasn't that interested. But yeah, I do miss watching the commission and the ad hoc on television.
Well, check out Khomotso Modisa's Instagram and TikTok. So our colleague from EWN, she takes some time to break down in a couple of seconds, or a minute or so, in fact, what's been happening at the inquiries, and just helps you understand what each inquiry is about, and also recaps the most important evidence. So I think if you check some of the videos that she's put up, you'll get a bit of a gist about what the Nkambinde inquiry is about, because it's been getting so hot over the last couple of days. I've played some clips yesterday on the show on the open line. It's really been getting interesting.
Good morning, Clement. Thanks for the great show as always. My friend, you hear it nail on. Yeah, if I can say that. I miss those commissions so badly. I would sit and try and finish everything before they start. So, somehow I was saying maybe they could have let Madlanga at least to finish this week and then we can start again next year. But yes, I miss them. Man. I miss them.
Morning, Clement. Before the commission started, I was of the opinion that the ad hoc committee would be more useful. We would get the truth from the ad hoc committee more than the Madlanga, for the fact that the Madlanga works on recommendations, and the parliamentary ad hoc seemed to have better chance of prosecution at the end of it. But I've since realized that no, if you want to listen to something straightforward and you want to listen to things that are coherent and make sense and are chronological, the Madlanga Commission was to go to. I would work with my AirPods in. I'm streaming on YouTube as I do my work, and now my work days seem bleak for the fact that we were working until the 24th. I miss the Madlanga Commission. I'm not the same, guys. I am having withdrawal symptoms. Can we please get our Madlanga Commission back? Please, please, guys. Thank you, Clement, for a great show. Clarity from Pretoria.
Thank you, Clarity, for some clarity.
Hi, Clement. Hope you're well. Olani here from the Val. Hey, I miss Madlanga and I miss the ad hoc, I must say. What I miss most, Clement, is the presentation of the chairpersons. Wow. True gentlemen. True gentlemen. I miss that kind of leadership from these two processes. And with the ANC, Clement, my brother, for me, they're just repositioning themselves, not renewing. The step-aside rule, it's just for the selected few. It's not consistent. And even when you hear the guys that step aside, they do it voluntarily. So it's not necessarily a policy applied full and full. Thanks, Clement.
Thank you. Kamogelo, you're in Centurion. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Clement. How
It's
are you?
Ada. I'm not doing
No, sharp. I just want to comment on this ANC issue. I want to be positive. I think that they are heading in the right direction. It's not going to be immediate. As in the politics, I feel like we still need the ANC to play that role. Because you look at the leadership that's coming up, that ESCOM minister, the Minister of Electricity, he is a positive guy. His track record is good. You look at, Fredeman Tache, when he said over the weekend, he's not going to participate in any new leadership roles and stuff. That's a positive direction to say, no, okay, khanyani, we're getting rid of the oldies and getting new people. So the main thing that I want to say is that why we need ANC is that we still need ANC because you feel like your DA, your EFF, they bring racial tensions in South Africa. Or you always feel like the DA is for white people, you always feel like the EFF is for black people. But with ANC, you feel, okay, the diversity is still there, a little bit there, as much as, the corruption is there, but yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you, Kamogelo and Centurion, for your 2 cents.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to the 702 listeners. I'd like to acknowledge that the ANC is trying to better itself with this renewal program that they are on. I mean, they're like any other party. Yes, they have their faults, but we mustn't let those faults make us think that they have done no good for us as a country. So I want to encourage them to renew themselves, to relook at themselves, so that when they come back as a better party that is focused and willing to improve our lives as South Africans. This is Eugene from Soshanguve. Have a fantastic Wednesday.
Thank you, Eugene. You too. But when are they coming back? I suppose is what I'm asking is, okay, sure, because I agree with you, Eugene, which is why I said earlier, I don't think we're being fair if we say the ANC has done absolutely nothing. In fact, someone tweeted, where's that tweet? Someone says, hey, Clement, are you trying to be the spokesperson for... there. Leo says, Clement, good morning, sir. Good show as always. It seems like you're trying to be the spokesperson for the ANC. No, not at all. I'm just trying to be fair. I'm trying to look at this objectively. I don't think it's fair. It's like people who say, ANC has done nothing. No, that's not true. Like, some of you have a job today because you were able to go to school because of the ANC government. Your NSFAS. Some of you, your children are being paid for. Their tuition fees are paid for by NSFAS. So some of you are living in homes, or you've lived in homes, or you've got relatives who live in RDP homes. And yes, there are other people who've been waiting on that RDP list for the longest of times. I'm not saying their government was perfect. In fact, far from it. I'm demonstrating that it's not factual to say they've done nothing. Similarly so, I think it's not fair to say they have done nothing in as far as their renewal agenda. Maybe we can argue that they've at least planned for it and it looked good on paper, but they're slow with the implementation. Maybe they've implemented other things like the step-aside resolution, but maybe they've not done it consistently, right? But I do think that they've tried something, but it's just not taking shape. Because I think at the end of the day, this is an organization that believes in collective protection. I mean, the digital vibes scandal, when it comes up, you don't have a president who's brave enough to take a decision and say, that's it, you are out of my cabinet. He's not, because he must make political considerations. You've got a president who still keeps David Mahlobo, the very same man that he, through a report that he commissioned, that report came back and said, these people were problematic characters at the State Security Agency. He still somehow appoints them in his cabinet. How serious is he then about the renewal agenda? So I don't think that it's taking shape. It's been over 13 years or so. How many years is it? So many years, over a decade that the ANC has been talking about renewal. How can it be that you and I are still talking about which aspects of renewal have we actually seen, if at all? Hey?
Morning, Clem. I think there is something to renew. And if they were to face the truth and say, all this dead wood, all these bad apples must be got rid of, make sure that they get prosecuted, then there'll be renewal. They know what they need to renew, but it's just that they sort of entangle themselves into so much corruption and protecting each other and everything. That is what they need to renew. There is something renewable. They just need to face it. Anonymous.
Morning, Clement. Morning, 702. Clement, I beg to differ. There is absolutely zero renewal, and I agree with the last person. How do you renew when on just on an ethical basis, your president has been found with foreign currency to that amount? Let's say the law doesn't speak to it being wrong, but on an ethical basis, there is smoke there. And yet the same person who's implicated in such is supposed to be driving a renewal. There's no renewal in the ANC, Clement. Thank you, Max.
Clement, it's so ironic that people really speak badly of, the ANC or Ramaphosa. When the minister was accused, Senzo, Cyril could have just fired him. But then he set up a commission. People were complaining, the monies will be spent, nothing will happen. But they're every day watching Madlanga then. They're the ones making coffee watching Madlanga. who did that? Who set up that commission to find out the rot? He would have just fired Nkunu and then we'll just go, the day as it goes. But then he did that. But no one is giving him credit. No one is giving him credit. No, man. We must give credit where it's due.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've given credit where it's due, guys. I think we've really been fair. I mean, even G20, we were praising him. But there's some instances where it's actually what he's supposed to do. I'm sorry. I don't think the president had any choice. And also, firing Minister Mkhunu, as the courts have actually even indicated when the MK party went to court, what are you basing that on? That's why the court said the decision that was taken was legally permissible. to put Minister Mkhunu on special leave, whether you disagree or agree with it. But are we trying to set a precedent where wherever there's any allegation that comes up against anybody, then you expect the president to quickly just act? What about you? What happens when you are accused of something? Huh? If someone comes, just accuses you of something without even any substantial evidence, and then you're out. So I'm saying in the beginning, the president could argue that, well, I didn't have enough. All I knew was this is what's happening. There are people that are somehow associated with the minister. Therefore, I need more information so that I can make a decision. At this stage, I agree with you. At this stage, there's a lot that's been exposed around the failure of the Minister of Police to actually make the right considerations in as far as the political killing stars team is concerned before taking that decision to disband it immediately. And I don't see how the president still is not going to act against him. I mean, that would be shocking. If the recommendations come out and the president still keeps him in his cabinet, that's going to be wild. But to say that we must praise the president for appointing a commission of inquiry to investigate the possible corruption in the criminal justice system, what else did you expect from him? I don't think he had any choice. We've never been here before, where a KZN police commissioner comes to a briefing and says, this is what we have seen, and this is what we think is at play. So something has got to give. Either he implements his own somehow independent investigation of sorts and puts together a panel, or he actually becomes transparent and says, let's actually appoint a commission of inquiry that's going to look into these issues. I don't think that's one thing we look at and we say, wow, what an amazing president we have. I think we should expect that from any other president. But to be fair on you, there are other presidents we've had before who probably would have actually just ignored the press briefing. Or, to your point, probably could have just moved Senzo Mkhunu or fired him and then continued like nothing happened.
Good morning, Clement and listeners. I think some people's views are so misplaced. ANC members are members of the community. They are not from heaven. They have a right to belong to the ANC and chart their way forward. So whether renewal is a failure or success, the ANC has a right to review itself and see if it can come up with plans that will combat the very corruption that is done by both the members who are in government and the public servant from different political parties. So the ANC is what it is because people are folding their arms. Let them come forward, change, chop, remove whoever they feel what is bad for the society in terms of governance. Thank you. Patoras.
Morning, Clement and the listeners. There's no renewal in ANC. Absolutely, there's nothing. ANC keep on recycling people. Here in Ward 46, we don't know our council. The last time we saw our councillor, it was when he was elected as a councillor. We never seen this guy before. The only thing I can tell you about this guy is a drunkard. That's all I can tell you. ANC is dead, guys. It's dead. Let's forget about ANC. We are where we are because of ANC. People are suffering because of ANC. Crime is there because of ANC. It's only them that they must protect themselves. Only them. Thank you.
Hi, Clement. Your question about the renewal of the ANC, you don't have to look far. You just have to be at the gates of the Birchwood hotel where they're holding this meeting, where there are protesters outside, and you have row after row after row of luxury vehicles driving past people that have not been paid salaries for months and months. How can you have a picture like that and speak about renewal in the same breath? Can they not take an example of Helen Ziller, who drives a Toyota? I think you said she drives a Toyota. That is a good example of renewing and trying to save money and trying to be prudent with your finances. Thanks, Sister Cynthia.
Hi, Clement. I just touched something that it's frustrating me at the moment. Yes, the ANC has done a lot. At the same time, has done a lot of mess. Clement, I'm a student. I'm frustrated about NFSAS. My tuition is not paid. I don't know the coming year if I'm going to be able to continue with my studies. Yes, ANC have done a lot of great things and also messed up on the same great things, the same ANC. So I'm happy in the country that we'll have, going forward, we'll have coalition government. There will never be a one-party state anymore.
There's a new way to experience all your favorites. Pulse Africa, the 24/7 fast channel, now live on primemediaplus.com and the Prime Media Plus app, bringing you the best of Prime Media around the clock. Watch the biggest moments from 702. It's non-stop entertainment and authentic African storytelling, all from Africa's leading media network. Pulse Africa, only on the primemediaplus.com and Prime Media Plus app.
Business Outsurance are experts in business insurance for general practitioners, dentists, surgeons, and other medical specialists. Kuveni.
It's so nice to know the business risk is taken care of by Business Outsurance. The call center is just a dream to deal with. Very seamless, easy experience, and it just feels like the people we're talking to on the other line understand our needs.
Switch to Business Outsurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Visit outsurance.co.za. Switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
It's been a long year of, I hope this email finds you well. One long year of loop backs, circle backs, going back to the drawing board, touching base, pushing the envelope, taking things offline and thinking outside the box. Thank goodness AV's 4 for 3 is here. For vacays, bakeys, imicimbi, nemikiti and weddings. If you book a car for a minimum of 4 days, you'll only pay for 3. Plus, if it's a Group A car, you get upgraded to a stylish Group B car so you can really get into the vibe. Visit avis.co.za for bookings. Terms and conditions apply.
Building a life across borders starts with choices. Visas, a second passport, citizenship, your child's education abroad, and sometimes those choices can be overwhelming. For 30 years, Sable International has simplified global mobility, including cross-border tax, forex, and wealth management, helping you make the right choices with expertise and care. Build your future beyond borders. Visit us at sableinternational.com.
Clement is on X
At The Real Clement M.
All right, it's going up to 10 o'clock now, time for the latest in eyewitness news. And this eyewitness news is brought to you by Vouch. Hassle-free insurance is possible with your Vouch advisor. Vouch SA is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
This is EWN. All right, there seems to be a technical glitch there with our
eyewitness news. So we'll come back to that in a moment. Let's check what's in our traffic, Amuramela.
Well, Clement, we still have got delays on the N3 North in the Alexandra area. This is between Vincent Chabalala Road and Marlborough Drive. While traveling on the M1 South, expect some delays between Greyston Drive and Corlett Drive. There's also queuing traffic along the N1 South. This is between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive. A major accident scene has been reported there, and that's the reason for that long queue. While in Fourways, roadworks are taking place on Winnie Mandela Drive, and they're causing heavy traffic volumes between Leslie and Witkoppen Road. More updates at the bottom of the hour. Stay tuned.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Three minutes after 10 o'clock, Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702, and apologies for those gremlins at the top of the hour. We had issues with the studio where Sfisa Zulu was going to read the news from, but from 10:30 he'll come join us in this studio for that. So apologies for that. Remember, we're going to have a conversation at 11 o'clock on our listener's choice feature about the kind of scams you need to be aware of as we get into the festive season, and then we wrap up the show at 11:30 with the sharing space.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
But right now we start our conversation with Vusumzi Nxande, who is the author of Jenny Kwantu, Exploring African Spirituality and Identity. I've told you a few times about the book, because I was learning a lot while I was reading it, and I've shared some of that with you, and I've told you need to go get your hands on the book, especially if you're really interested to learn about spirituality in general, but also if you're interested to learn about African spirituality. I found that I understood a lot of things that I have not been understanding before, but also there was an awakening of sorts where you start questioning things. Because as you know, there are many people who come from homes where they were told you can't question God and you can't question this. If the scripture says this, take it, go with it. And not just with the religious scriptures. I think even with just the cultural beliefs that we follow and we practice, there's no, we don't question a lot. We're okay with taking whatever we're told and we run with it, even when truly we're not convicted or we understand what that is about. And that's one of the things I've appreciated about the book, just awakening me to just how okay it is to ask the questions. So I want you to join the conversation. If you want, if you've got a question, You can give us a call on 011-883-0702. If anything piques your interest, send a WhatsApp as well on 072-702-1702. Vusumzi, thank you so much for coming through, my brother. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
How do I pronounce your surname?
Mwande.
Yes. Okay. Is that Xhosa?
Tembu.
But
it falls under Xhosa.
But Omotswana.
Marike Motswana.
Yes. I love because I've also been listening to your podcast, and in your podcast you explain how shocked you were when I think you were consulting and you were being told about the Khoi.
Yes.
And that's when you're now, tracing your ancestry and you realize that, Haibo.
Yes.
The Khoi, how?
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later on. So there's a lot, obviously, that have piqued my interest reading this book. And I hope that I can somehow confine my thoughts and not be all over the place. So let's start perhaps in the beginning with how you felt the need to try and explore African spirituality, because you grew up in a Christian home,
Yes,
right?
I did. Yes.
So what was it about what you followed in that Christian home that got you to think outside and say, this is something that I really want to explore? What was happening?
I think I need to start with the idea of questions. Questions are very integral, I think, to my whole identity. And I remember one time when I was young, my father banned me from asking questions. He was like, hey man, Jeffrey the feel, man.
Yeah.
you constantly asking questions. And I think by nature I'm very curious.
Yeah.
And I think with my whole spiritual journey, I suppose, the conscious aspect of it started when I was a teenager. As you said, I grew up as a Christian, like any other person who grew up in the township.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, I remember this one time, I was going to church. It was a Sunday morning, and my mother was making me up, saying, we must go to church. And I remember sitting up on the bed and saying, I want to go, yeah, but I don't know why I'm going. And she was all dressed up in her, she's dressed up in her gear, and she says, well, if you don't know where you're going, then don't go. And I think I will always be grateful to my mother, my staunch Christian mother, because that moment for me cemented the fact that it is okay not to be okay with something, especially when it comes to religion and spirituality, in that it is fine not to feel like you're connected, and to have that space to say, find your reason, And interestingly enough, I stopped going to the church that I grew up in, but I ended up going back to church when I was in varsity, and I got saved. I was a born again Christian, and I appreciated, that my mother let me go in that sense, in that I could sort of get into belief and religion without, the dogma of you have to. So I found Christianity quite an amazing experience, at the time.
Yeah.
But I think, after a couple of years also, that nagging question again, it came back to say, why are we doing things this particular way? And I think I have to mention that the church that I went to when I was older was predominantly a white church, which sort of presented challenges that I had not thought of when it comes to religion, because I grew up in a black church, and for me, religion is black. Everything about belief is black. And more than anything, the Christian identity, as we come to understand it from the township, is all about, the nobility of suffering, that suffering is just the way that we are, and all of those things. And then you get into this sphere where you're interacting with white people, and they're doing Christianity totally different. For them, nothing is about suffering. Everything is about, expanse and awe and wonder about the world. But then I also started picking up that there was a lot of mixing Christianity with whiteness. There was a lot of that was happening, and I was like, whereby you had to, if things was a norm in a white household, then it was necessarily Christian. And I said, no, like I don't think, we can't equate whiteness to Christianity.
Which brings me to the point about how did we come to believe what we believe? Because one of the things I've enjoyed about your book is how it is an academic exploration. So it's rooted in a lot of in extensive historical research, which really helped me a lot. I mean, when you spoke about the issue of surnames in the book, I didn't know that before, about how our surnames came to be, and whether, in fact, as Africans, this is how we used to name ourselves. Can you maybe take us back to what your research has uncovered in as far as just even Abo Mama Bom Tandazo, because you talk about that in the book. Like, how did we come to believe what we believe? And then the next layer, then we'll get into the conversation about, even about the issue of naming.
Yes.
And how critical
I
that
think
was.
for me, what was really important in how I approached the book was a lot of the time when we're dealing with spirituality or esoteric things, we go into it with a point to prove. You know, we go in wanting to back up beliefs that we already have. And for me, when I started with the book, I was like, I want to start from scratch. I'm not writing this book as a particular person who believes in a particular thing, because I feel like those kind of approaches, then they cage you, because once now the reality starts setting in, you start being challenged, like, no, but this is what I believe. This can't be true. You know, so I didn't set out to prove things that I already knew or already believed. My question to myself was, what is there? Right? What is there, so that when the challenging information comes, then I don't necessarily react to it and say, want to disprove it or want to sort of twist the reality and bring it back, you know, to what feels more comfortable for me. And so that was the premise, to say, what is there? Why was I a Christian? I grew up Christian. Why did I grow up a Christian? You know, and then you start looking. I looked at my mother. I'm like, okay, my mother raised me Christian. You know, and I'm like, okay, why was she Christian?
Yes.
And then her mother raised her Christian. You know, and then you start going back into this. You know, I don't want to say a rabbit hole, but into this journey of like, okay, what came before this? What came before this? And what came before this? And the realities are very painful when you really come to understand it, in how, you know, Abo Mama Bomtandazo, how they built the infrastructure, you know, in that the I can say that the apartheid government built the township, but Abo Mama Bomtandazo built the infrastructure, the human aspect of it. They are the ones who built the spiritual aspects of it. You know what I mean? They are like the pillars, and I want to feel like they were also activists in a way. They were smuggling religion, they were smuggling beliefs, you know, under the radar of the apartheid government, you know. So for us, we came to be Christian mainly because we were colonized by Christians, you know, and that is the truth of the matter. And as a Christian, it is a very difficult thing to try to balance, to say you are not Christian by choice. Historically, you're Christian by choice now in 2025. Yes.
You choose Christ now.
You choose, but this is not something that you chose, you know, and you have to accept the realities of what did it mean, what was taken out of us for this to be
and what was
a reality,
suppressed as well,
and what was suppressed, you know, at the time, you know. Right now, I had been doing like research on how, you know, the township architecture. In my podcast, how the township architecture, actually, how the physicality of the township was built in such a way to suppress our beliefs, you know, in that it is not ideology, you know, the way you are Christian because it was the whole system that you live in, not just the Bible. You were given the Bible or you were told this, but you were raised in an infrastructure that inculcated
education.
Yes, this is the only thing you can believe in.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because even the education you get, because at some point, it's how you get named, how your
precisely
how your birth gets registered.
Precisely,
all of that. It's within that Christian infrastructure.
Yes.
I want you to get into the issue of naming as well, because as I said, I really found that to be so fascinating. Have we always, as Africans, had like these first names and surnames?
I think for me the best example that I can give in how we understand surnames is the identity of Ushaga Zulu. You know, we all grew up believing that Shaga's surname is Uzulu. You know, there was his actual surname that he's registered from the time he was born. And the truth of the matter, which is something I appreciate when it comes to things like, you know, the production of the new Shaka Ilembe, is that they're sort of dispelling those things. That Shaka was named after his father, black people, Africans, we didn't have surnames. But our naming practices were patrilineal, in that you were named after your father. Your surname was your father's name. And beyond that, we were cultural people, in that we were adhering to Itagazelo, clan names. And the importance about the difference in a surname and a clan name is that in the Western context, surname is just a differentiator. You know, it could be anything. You could be named Blue, you could be named whatever, you know, in the current system. But with Itagazelo, you know, Diboko, it's a whole history that carries, you know. But now how surnames come about is that they were a medieval invention, in that in the medieval Europe, it was the church that kept records of people, you know, births, deaths, marriages, and things like that. So when they were keeping registers of these events, the kings needed those registers because they were the first census. That's how the king knew how many people were in their kingdom, because they just go to the church and say, how many people have been born, how many people got married, how many people died, you know. And now the complication was that because people didn't have surnames, there was only one name. You know, you would be Clement, and then there would be it. But then they would know which one, because there are a few of them. You know what I mean? So which one are you talking about? No, Clement so-and-so's son, you know, so-and-so's son. For example, if there would be a guy called William, and William, his father is John. So they would say William, John's son. Oh, and then what would happen is that they started shortening so-and-so's son. John's son becomes Johnson. Yes. So that becomes the descriptor. And when they were starting to register now the surnames, they would say that we can't keep starting over a new branch with every generation. You know what I mean? Because I would be called by a certain name, and then my son would be called by a certain name, and all of those things. But with that, you can't create a family tree, because there's nothing connecting these people. So what the church then said was, okay, from now on, we're only taking, if you are John's son, that's what your whole family is going to be called. And that's what the descendants are going to be called, you know. And these descriptors would be, you know, it would be a physical descriptor, like the tall one, or the one who lives in the woods, or the carpenter, or, you know, the cooper, the one who makes the buckets out of wood and things like that. Or Smith, who was the blacksmith, and all of those things. So those would be their occupations. It would be, you know, John, the one who does this, the one who does that. So when now the missionaries come to South Africa, when they come to South Africa or Southern Africa, they want to now institute that same thing, to say that when you get baptized, because the baptism certificate was the first ID in the country, if you wanted a job, if you wanted any way for the government to recognize you, you needed to be baptized.
Yeah.
And when you look at the baptism certificate, it has two sections. It has the name and it has a surname. So when black people needed to be recognized in the country, when you go to the missionaries, because the missionaries was the first home affairs, you get there and they're like, okay, what's your surname? And people are like, what is that? No, what is your surname? And I'm like, okay, what is the surname? I'm like, okay, what's your father's name? And then you'll tell them your father's name, and then they would write that as your surname. Or they would ask you, what is your clan? And then you would say, we are Abatembu, and then that would become your surname. So the picking of surnames, in our current context, we sort of see it as a very divinely inspired thing where, you know, our surnames are very deeply spiritual, and the reality is that they're not. When surnames were picked, when our predecessors picked the surnames, there was no spiritual ceremony that happened. They were there at the missionary house. They had to pick a surname on the spot, and it could have been anything. It could have been a nickname, for all that matter. You know, the surname could have been your father's nickname. It could have been, you know, and their nickname could have come from the farmer which he worked for, and things like that. You know, so I think one of the beautiful things about a surname is that it shows that something very practical can become something deeply spiritual based on how you augment it with meaning and the context in which it comes from.
Yeah. So did you find that in your exploration that it was difficult to sort of question your belief? Because you said earlier you didn't want to go into it, you know, with this specific view. You were open, right? But there are people who listen to us who find it's like, oh my goodness, you're asking me to question what has basically shaped who I am. And that can really be a tall task. And I wonder what your approach was like, because I really think that what your mom did was so progressive, like to say to you, if you don't know why you're coming to church, then don't come.
Mm.
A lot of us grew up in households where that is not an option.
Yeah.
You are gonna go to church. Whether you are convicted, whether you even understand Christ, whether you even know a single verse from the Bible or not, you're gonna go. And growing up, I've always thought about that. Like, but what's the point of a relationship with Christ if I don't know him or her or they like that? I only know them through my parents or through my uncle who's a pastor. And what's the point then of belonging? Because what is belonging if I don't have a relationship myself with the maker or the person that I worship?
Yes.
Do you think, even from the interviews that you've done when you were writing the book, that is a difficult thing to do, to just question one's belief? And I'm asking this because there's this dichotomy of people are struggling with, I was raised a Christian, but they also want to appreciate their African roots. And when you go to the church, you are told you cannot acknowledge that. So there seems to be this tension then that exists. How does someone listening to us who is in that situation even resolve that? Was that explored enough from the interviews you did?
It is an extremely daunting process to embark on. To say that I am going to question everything that I know. And because even from that very beginning, you have to take everything that you believe that you know and say, I'm going to put it aside, right? Because so much of our identity is built on what we have been taught. So when you do that, and when the information now starts challenging you, you get to a point where you ask, then who am I? If I am not this, if the things that I'm finding are not backing up the things that I believe, then what am I? And I remember I once watched this presentation by this Christian scholar, and I read some of his books, where he was exploring the more science fiction aspects of Christianity, like revelations. What are these beings? All the supernatural stuff about it. And he said, people always say, like, why would you do that? Why are you going into these more sci-fi aspects of it? And he says, it's not possible for me. Questions can't break my beliefs. And if questions break my beliefs, then my beliefs would never existed in the first place. And I remember having this question to myself, like, what if I ask questions? What if I take this whole belief system that I believe I adhere to, and I question and I peel back the layer and I peel back the layer, and I get to the inside and I find that there's nothing there? What if everything that I believe in is just a superstition? None of it is real. And I remember thinking, then that's what it is. At the very least, that's the truth. If your whole belief system is built on superstition and there's nothing in it, then there's nothing in it. Then you, at the very least, you may not have something to hold on to, but you can hold on to the truth. You can walk forward knowing that this is the truth. I can't create something out of nothing just because I feel like I need to believe in something. And for me, that was one of the really challenging parts of this work, in that finding out that, for example, my surname is not as ancient as I thought. My surname is actually a colonial surname. It's not this ancient, deep African. It's not. My surname came about when the missionaries came about. And as you said, you find that you believe we have this thing of tribal purity that we push, especially as South Africans. Like, you're either this or you're that. And then I find that there are so many things about my identity that challenge my understanding. As you said, when we started, I found that I have Khoi lineages in my bloodline, and how they came about. They came through spirits. They came through and said, we are also here, but we want to charge you with finding out why are we here? Why is it that you have Khoi ancestry? Because no one wants to talk about it. And when I found out why, it is the most devastating truth about culturalism and tribalism that I found. A very painful. We have a dark past outside of white people and outside of colonization. We have dark past in our identities that we don't want to deal with. And for me, one of the things that fell away was this idea of tribal purity. There is no such thing, and I feel like in the book, I ended the book by saying that, by asking, are we a new people? Because for me, this is what I feel like in everything that I have learned. If we were to look, let's say, 200, 300 years from now, the people that we are now would be classified as a totally different tribe altogether. We would probably even have a different name because we are not Zulu, we are not Xhosa, we are not Botswana, we are, as people who live in Gauteng, we are a totally different tribe altogether. We have different customs. We don't think that we have customs, but we do have customs. We don't believe that we have, practices, but we do have practices. It's just that we're not as conscious about them as we think, So, and I feel like for me, what is important about the work that I've been doing and others have been doing is in recognizing that we are actually not an endpoint or a result of a particular thing, not just that, but actually a beginning. We are like the ancestors of people who are going to come after us. And I feel like we have to embrace that. And because if we embrace that, we can now think of ourselves, more consciously when we say, okay, we have kids who can't speak pure languages, kids who can't speak isiZulu. What does that mean? What will that mean?
In 100 years.
In 100 years' time, when some of us, I come from 4 generations of men who have been living in townships. I trace my great-great-grandfather from the 1800s to a township. I don't have a Makaya. I don't have where I can go and say, no, this is where I don't have that. The people who would know that have all gone. We've been here for over 100 years in urban areas. That is my identity. We have this assumption, this presupposition that we have to have Komakaya, we have to have, but we don't. I don't.
Yeah.
My kids don't have that. My kids don't have a place where they can go Komakaya and say, no, this is where we're from. My kids are from the township. Thoroughly.
So when they go visit Ugogo or Bokoko, Kiko Township.
For them, that is the ancestral home.
Yes.
And for me, we have to then deal with what does it mean for your ancestral home to be a township? To be a forum house, because that's what it is. I can't pretend that it's not. So I have to look at, okay, what would it mean culturally? How do we then consciously navigate this identity without taking it as these are things that happen to us?
Okay. Before we go to the headlines, then we'll deal with the issue of people who find themselves in this tension between, but I've chosen Christ, but I also want to acknowledge my ancestors and where I come from. We'll deal with that after the headlines. But something I got reminded now of what you speak about in the book when you followed your mom to church, and you used to see Abo Mama Bomtandazo, during their time of worship. I don't know how to describe it in English, but it's like a moya. It's like
going to trance.
Yeah, they go into a trance. I've seen that a lot growing up.
Yes.
Like, how do we define that? Because what is it? Because
Yes.
when we were growing up, they said, no, unale moya.
Yes, but you don't know what that means.
But kiing moya,
Moya
is it God?
Or is it wafeinta?
Yeah.
Is it just too hot? Is it too hot? Is it high blood? Is that what? I used to think Moya was high blood because I feel like, okay, this person is too hot. The church is hot. The windows are not big enough. So they're passing out. The idea of there's some spiritual element to it never ever occurred to me at that time.
What did you discover from your research, especially from just even your observations when you followed what was that for you? How did you read that?
For me, it was one of the biggest spiritual revelations I've ever had, realizing that Abo Mama Bomtandas were falling into ancestral trances in church, in their outfit. But more than that, it was how they were dealing with it. No one was surprised. And they were attending the first aid that was being administered to them was things that I have seen that sangomas do, perform when someone goes into a trance. I'm like, they're doing the exact same thing. I'm like, I remember thinking to myself as I was standing in the church, I'm like, the only thing that's missing here is impepo. But other than that, all the things about how you position a person, how
sit you down,
yes, all of those things.
Mm.
And when you talk, and then they would talk to them, and then that was key for me. Like they would talk the person out of trance, and I'm like, no, man, there's something. And I feel like for me, the moment where I realized something hectic had happened was on the way back. I was driving with my mom, and I was taking her back, and she's quiet, and I'm like, and then. what was that? She just looked at me and she kept quiet. She never answered me to this day. And I'm like, so this is what has been happening. They actually have been dealing with spirits, African spirits of the ancestors in the church. They just decided for themselves, like, we're actually not going to talk about it.
Or they could argue that's the spirit of God that comes on them.
But it's not.
It's 10:31. Let's get the latest now with this news headlines. We'll continue this conversation with Vusumzi. I see your WhatsApps coming through and your calls. We'll get to them after the headlines. 011-883-0702. If something piqued your interest, you've got a question, you want to comment on something that is mentioned, you can send your WhatsApps as well on 072-7021-702. Sfiso, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Interviews for the country's top prosecutor post are set to be held in Pretoria today. 3 hopefuls vying for the National Director of Public Prosecutions post will appear before a panel, and the successful candidate will succeed Advocate Shamila Batoyi, whose term ends next month. The Agricultural Business Chamber has again raised concerns about what it's labelled as poor coordination among some countries in the Southern African Customs Union. This follows Botswana's decision to reintroduce import bans on key vegetables due to their relatively high local production and availability. And Brazil's parliament has descended into chaos as conservative lawmakers continue to push a law which would reduce the prison sentence of former President Jair Bolsonaro. One lawmaker was forcibly removed by police after trying to disrupt proceedings, while footage shows scuffles breaking out as security tries to restore order. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, traffic remains heavily backed up on the N3 North. This is between Van Buren Road and the Giluli's interchange. There's also queuing traffic on the N12 as well as the R24 West between Edenville Road and the Giluli's interchange. Traveling in Isando, we've got roadworks along the R24 East near Barber Road. Delays from the Awar Tambo Airport. There's also queuing traffic on the R21 South. This is just as you come out of Atlas Road. An accident has been reported there. Do expect about a 10-minute hold up. And then if you're traveling on the Magwan South, some delays between the Greyston Drive off-ramp and Corlett Drive. There's also queuing traffic in Alexandria along the N3 North between Vincent Chabalala Road and Marlborough Drive. Out in the city of Tshwane, we've got some delays, a slight backup really along the N1 South approaching the Flying Saucer interchange, and that's due to an accident as well as roadworks taking place along this route. If you want to avoid the scene, try to use the R21 South or even Rigel Avenue, then rejoin the R21. More updates at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
The conversation around protection of whistleblowers continues. Not all whistleblowers are entirely innocent. Some whistleblowers are disgruntled participants in some of the crimes that they are now blowing the whistle about. Not all whistleblowers, I would argue, deserve the same kind of protection. I argue that you can't compare Babita Diokara with a Marius van der Merwe. They are not of the same fabric, morally speaking, ethically speaking.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702. Ask yourself, what matters most?
I just want to be there when she takes her first steps.
And still be around for her first dance.
It's knowing I'm not just covered, I'm cared for.
It's having the strength to say I'm back.
It's just knowing Mom will be okay.
It's coming home.
Bonitas goes beyond benefits and claims. Bonitas, medical aid for South Africa. Voted #1 medical aid in the Ask Africa Orange Index Awards for the 2nd year running. Visit bonitas.co.za and find your plan.
At Checkers, we do more so you get extra this Christmas. With festive savings like Sally Williams chocolate and nougat products. Buy any 2 and save 25%. And Lindt Lindor chocolate balls, 200 grams for $139.99. Plus, stand a chance to win your share of 7 million rand in prizes. Simply buy any 3 qualifying products and swipe your extra savings card to enter. Valid until Sunday at Checkers, Checkers Hyper, or shop on 6060. T&Cs apply.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is streets ahead. Warrior Paints. Affordable, lasting luxury.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
24 minutes before 11 o'clock, we're in conversation with Vusumzi Nxande, who is the author of Jenny Kwantu, exploring African spirituality and identity. There's a lot that we've been talking about, so I want to go straight to your WhatsApp voice notes as we continue our conversation.
Hi, Clement. The conversation you're having with your guest is such an interesting one, and I absolutely love it because in the absence of us reading about our history, talking to other people about our history and our experiences and what we learn and how we understand certain things such as religion, how they came to be and who we are as a people, we will always stay ill-informed. And so it's just amazing to have a guest on your show that talks about these things in such an informed way. And he's not trying to necessarily convert or, recruit. He keeps on saying that from his perspective, what he's learned, what he's seen. And I find the conversation very constructive and informative. And even though sometimes it's difficult to question our beliefs and not wanting to almost stray away from what we believe, I think it's always important to just talk about these things and educate oneself. So fantastic show, fantastic guest, loving it.
Hi, Clement. Great show. About the surname thing, it's actually interesting to listen to because when I was young, my surname is Malathela. So I used to get teased a lot when I was young. I used to get teased a lot by people calling me Latlele. So it ended up coming to a point where I asked my mom, I sat her down. I'm like, how did we get this surname? Why do we have such a surname, Malathela? And then she's like, in the olden days, people used to throw things at my great-grandparents. They used to throw them with things. So that's why Malathela came about. So yeah, I was kind of fascinated, but now listening to the show, it makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Clement. Great show.
I wonder why they were throwing things.
You have to question.
You have to ask that.
Yes.
I wanted to get back to the issue now of your religion and, of course, people who still want to follow and acknowledge their ancestors. And I think with the older generation, like our parents, our grandparents, they were stuck in between. I mean, I remember my grandmother, whom we used to wake up in the morning, go to this Catholic church. But make no mistake, on a Saturday or Magnum Sebenzi, we're going to go and uyopahla. And that was acknowledged. And then even certain churches, like if you go to Abapostola, some people go to the Methodist church, they still find a way to find a balance. Then you go to the charismatic churches where it's like, you cannot do that. And I know of people who, even in the charismatic church, who still feel conflicted about the fact that this part of their lives is almost like it's erased. From your research, what have you found about this tension that exists?
The tension exists because religion relies on shame to inculcate order. And shame is one of the most primary senses that human beings can feel outside of fear. I can say that shame is probably the most powerful emotion that we have as human beings because it is not necessarily a violent emotion. If you were to think of, your biggest fears in life, think of everything that you know. If you could list all the things that you are really, really afraid of in your life, somewhere in it is an element of shame. There is something that you feel ashamed of within those things. Let's say, if for those who have jobs, if your fear is being unemployed, there's shame. If you fear not being in a relationship, it's shame. If you fear not having money, it's shame. If everything, if even if you want to talk about physical violence, if you want to talk about GBV, the biggest thing about it is shame. And in one way or another, whether it was intentional or not, the propagators of religion know that. They know that if you can wield shame over people, you can get them to basically bow down to anything, if you can shame them into it. This is beyond fear, because people would always say, like, you have, if you can strike fear into people, you can get them to believe in it. That's afterwards. But what's embedded in the fear is shame. So the tension that you're feeling when it comes to this idea of balancing the spirituality or Christianity with this, ultimately it's shame. You are afraid of the shame that will be exposed if you try to dig into this thing. And I feel like if you want to really consciously dig into this aspect of yourself to see what is it that I can get out of this, or how is it that I can navigate these two fields, you have to first understand that the thing that is going to be the most daunting part of it is going to be the shame part. Because you're going to be afraid of, if I find something here, I'm going to feel ashamed because the people that I come from, or my Christian background, they're going to view me in this particular way. So I have to say this. In doing the research, I had to go back to therapy. Right? I had to go back to therapy because when you're digging into these are not things outside of yourself. You have to understand, once you start digging into, why do I believe this? Why do I not believe this? You cannot deal with balancing Christianity and African beliefs and not deal with your own internal trauma. That's the point you're going to get to, because you're going to get to a point where this thing that you're finding is threatening taking you away from what is known to you and putting you in a particular context where you have no one around you. And that is where shame eats people up, right? For me, I had to go back to therapy. I had to go into therapy to sort of try to balance what it is that I was finding about myself. To say, sometimes you believe in a particular thing because you carry a certain kind of a trauma. And I can honestly say this, in that, as someone who grew up Christian, a lot of the reasons why we cling so desperately to Christianity is based on trauma. Right? There is, and I hope this does not come across as me judging Christianity. I don't have any issue with any religion, by the way.
And
right?
we make that clear. Even in the book.
I have. There are things about Christianity that are absolutely not just beautiful, but are important to people. And sometimes when people ask me, like, so what should I believe in? I'm like, I believe that there are people who are sort of in African spirituality, if you can put it that way, who need to go back to church. This will not do anything for you. You need to go back to church. And there are people who are in church that I feel like you shouldn't be in church because that's not your particular path. But I feel like when it comes to Christianity, there's a lot of trauma bonding. If you're familiar with that, there's a lot of things whereby we are together because we've suffered together. And, the image of Christ on the cross is the epitome of trauma bonding. We're suffering with him. He suffered for us. The idea of suffering. And now what it does is that it creates this thing where I can't suffer on my own. I need to suffer with someone. That's why, the colonialists inculcated this sense of, the nobility of suffering, especially with Africans. They taught us that there's a beauty in suffering. You have to suffer. There's godliness in suffering. There's godliness in having a challenging life. There's godliness in, inculcating the sense. And that is, in many ways, that's even how they got people to work in minor jobs, because they're like, no, that is how, God wants it to be. God wants the idea of people suffering.
Serving.
Yes.
So, and I must say, that's one of the things that I've appreciated the book is you're not telling people what you believe. You are telling us your story and telling us what your research has uncovered. Because one of the things I struggle with when we talk about issues of spirituality is people who come and they're so rigid about their view. Anything else is terrible except what they've come to believe.
I actually want to touch on what the first caller said when talking about, the difficulty with asking questions. Is that I embarked on this journey of asking questions, but I have to share that one of the most difficult things in embarking on this process of asking questions is that asking questions is one thing, but having to deal with the answers is a totally different other thing. I grew up having this sense of, my rebellious self was like, I hate how our family has secrets. There's so many secrets. People are keeping secrets. I was like, when I grow up, I'm not gonna keep secrets about the family. I'm gonna tell it like it is. And then you grow up, and then you find out what the secret actually is. And you're like, okay, never mind.
Let's
You know what I
move
mean?
on.
Because you're finding out, someone got raped, and that's how that person came about.
Yeah.
And then this happened and that happened. Then you have to deal with the realities when you want to question your beliefs. Hence, I'm saying I personally had to go back to therapy because the things were questioning so much of who I am. In that I don't know who I am outside of these things, but the truth of the matter is that this is what the reality is, And just another thing, when you were talking about how to balance, belief in ancestors and things like that. Right? We, in our current understanding, or the stereotypical understanding, is that we worship ancestors and whatever. But here's the thing, Udlomo was a person. Udlomo was the son of Unqeku. Udlomo went into battle against his father and his brothers, and he fought a brutal fight in which some of his brothers were killed. Unqeku was a particular person. There was Untande, there was also Picho. These were actual people. And when I dig into this history of it and I immerse myself into this, I'm like, okay, when I engage with them, I'm engaging with the understanding of these were people. And I'm engaging with them in the sense that they are on the other side of the world. They are on the other side of the realm. I understand that they are within that realm. There are things that are possible and things that are not possible. I'm not worshipping them. In the same way as my late father, when I think about him, I can have this sense of, I don't worship my father when I have questions about my upbringing. When I engage with him, even in my own mind, I'm not saying, Papa, do this, do that. I'm engaging with them as people, as historical
just on the
figures.
other side.
Yes, as historical
You
figures.
know what I found interesting is the quote-unquote problematic or bizarre things that you also found even in African spirituality. Like, for instance, when you engage with ancestors and sometimes you get a healer or a sangoma who says to you, no, bafuna ibhodlela le whiskey, Macallan, 12 years.
Yes.
Or
Single malt.
Or they tell you, no, you must take your dad's surname for things to go well in your life. But your dad has never really cared about you. There's no interest whatsoever in having wanted to acknowledge you as a child. What did you find bizarre and problematic about those, like that kind of approach, where they come, like the ancestors, quote unquote, come back through the healers or a sangoma, and they say to you, oh, this is what they want. And they are so specific about the earthly things that they want, and they're coming from this different realm.
Yes. There's two ways to answer that. One is a historical thing, because a lot of the time you would be told that, we have to do things in a particular way because this is how things were done back in the day. And one of the premise of my book is, when you say back in the day, what do you mean? We've been around for tens of thousands of years.
Is it 50 years? Is it 200 years?
What do you mean when you say back in the day? Are you saying 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago? Because at each point, people were different.
Yes.
We were doing things different at each point. So you have to be specific. And the reason why that is important is we have to understand that human beings change over time. History changes. We have not been, there's a sense that as Africans, we have one past that has been around since the beginning of time. We haven't. There was a time, Botswana, Bazulu, none of these people existed. There was a point in history where our languages did not exist. There was a time we were not here. We were somewhere else. We were different people having different beliefs, and our beliefs evolved. And this is part of one of the issues that I have with, when they say, we have to do things in a particular way. I'm like, okay, I get that it was important at a particular time. So we're talking about surnames. There was a time where everyone lived in the same family, in the same compound, in the same village. Times were different. You know what I mean? The structure, the spiritual structure was different. Even down to, right now we have this notion that patriarchy is a set thing that has always been like that. There was a time Africans were not patriarchal. There was a time that Africans were matrilineal. Where men were not the most important thing. And I think I detail it in the book. There's a whole chapter where I deal with what does a society look like when it's not patriarchal, And patriarchy came much later. And there were particular things that needed to happen for patriarchy to be put into place, And what also we don't want to understand or acknowledge right now, is especially when it comes to things that have to do with surnames, is that if you look at the statistics, what do they say about kids without fathers? What do they say about families, homes that don't have fathers? We are living in what is called a matrifocal family. We are not. I hope this doesn't touch people. Patriarchy is gone. Patriarchy is gone. What we have is just the facade of it. If we were to peel back, there's nothing holding up patriarchy anymore, right? The thing that has eviscerated patriarchy is capitalism. There's no such thing as the man provides. Men don't have jobs. You know what I mean? If you look at the statistics, most black families do not have a father figure in the house. Where's the patriarchy in that? Most children are growing up without their fathers. Where's the patriarchy in that? Our society is devoid of the entire infrastructure of patriarchy. What we actually have is what is called a matrifocal family, whereby most black families, the people who are in charge are mothers and grandmothers and aunts and sisters and all of those things. That is our reality. When our descendants look back at 2025 in 2045, 225 years, I failed maths. When our descendants look back at now, this is what they're not going to see: a patriarchal African people. They're going to see a matrifocal people whereby fathers were not there, uncles were not there, mothers were raising their own children, grandmothers were raising their kids. This is what the actual reality of what we live in is. So now when we want to talk about, the surname thing, that debate is actually gone. We, especially as men, we killed that debate ourselves.
But then when you go to a sangoma sometimes, or like some people who go consult, then they're told the reason you don't have a job, the reason the bad fortune you've experienced is because you're not using your dad's surname.
Yeah.
But you have no relation whatsoever and your dad has never had interest. How do you then manage that?
I can share personal experience with that. I remember one of the very first times I went and consulted as an adult, and I was told that my father came through and he was saying that he was very angry at me because his funeral was not conducted properly. And I'm like, hey brah, when did you explain to me how things must be done? I remember I got pissed off. I'm like, no, you don't, because my father said nothing to me about culture, about spirituality. Absolutely nothing. It was never a thing that even mentioned even slightly. And I was like, where did you expect me to find that information? When you were here, you didn't tell me, okay, this is what must happen and this and this and this and this. And for me, because it was one of the first experiences I had, I developed a healthy rebellion, I can say, against my own people, to say, there are things that I can understand that you would want, but there are things that you have to understand that you were not here you did not put this in place. If a person passes away and they leave abject poverty in the home, how do you come back and say, I want a cow, or I want a this, or I want a that? And in the book, I actually detailed my understanding of what a primary reason that we have issues with what the ancestors want is that we don't understand what the ancestral realm is actually about. Right? We believe that when people die, there's this amorphous world that they go into and they become this one thing. But through my research, I found that that's not the case. The ancestral realm is actually a very complex world that has a lot of different factors. And there are people who pass on in this life. And because of the trauma that they carry or, their connection to this world, they when they pass on, they don't change. If a person was a mean person, they pass on and they're still a mean person. What we don't understand about the spiritual realm is that this thought was planted in me when I went for a consultation, and I was told that sometime after my father passed away that he was still young in spirit, and I was like, what does that mean? And it took me a good 10 years to dig into what does that mean for a person to be young in spirit when they passed away and they were in their 60s and 70s and 80s, and for you to be told that they're young. And it's because when you pass on, you are not necessarily the same person. You are new in spirit. You have to now grow up. The same way as when a child is born and they have to learn how to walk, even that side. So there are people, in that complexity, there are bad people that side. There are bad ancestors because they have not evolved. And they are good people.
All right. Tabi Singh, you're calling us from Benoni. Good morning. Thank you for your patience.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you to Vusmuzi. When I had my awakening, well, at the peak of my awakening, it was COVID, when his podcast started, and it normalized how I was feeling because I didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't know how to put the words together. I remember one time saying to my husband, there's this old man inside of me. And I'm like, today this old woman came and she just wants to run away. I don't know what to do. And I had this craving of a cigarette smoke, and I'd never smoked in my life. I was in my 30s, late 30s, and I didn't know what to do. And in my dreams was this people speaking this language that I could understand. And in one of the clips that he played, there was a person from Namibia who spoke the language, and I can understand what it is, but
wow.
When they're speaking, and it made it normal for me to feel how I feel, because in doing research, you hear a lot about standards. It's almost as if it's like you read the Bible, this, thou shalt do this, thou shalt, as a textbook kind of situation, but with the diverse views that he brought through. I'm not Nguni. I'm Pedi, but my dad is a mixed person. From a mixed culture, and I could not understand what was happening to me. But his podcast, I'm now still going through his latest one with the two architects. And dear Lord, on his Instagram, I did ask, when is he coming back? Because it's a great guide.
Oh, it is, Tabi Singh. It is. It is indeed. Maria says, good morning, Clement. What an interesting conversation. I'm in my 60s and a lot is making sense around religion, culture, and spirituality. George says, I'm curiously listening, Clement. Your guest is talking a lot of sense and explaining things so well. Please give us the book name again and where to get it. Kola says, thank you for this discussion you're having. We need to spend more time on this. I really agree because I don't think we've even scratched the surface. I will invite you back again if you don't mind, because I really... There's just so much that we can go through. Where can people find the book?
The book you can find at most bookstores. You can find it on Take-A-Lot and Exclusive Books and the most reputable bookstores. And you can also catch the podcast, The Journey Kwantu, on all platforms where you catch your podcast.
Yeah, the title of the book, Journey Kwantu, Exploring African Spirituality and Identity. I'll post it again on Twitter and on Instagram as well. If you follow me, you can check it out. Thank you so much, Vusumuzi. This has been so insightful. And
thank you, sir.
Well done on the podcast. I really love listening to it every time I go for a run. It's so beautifully produced as well.
Yes.
Like, I'm not just listening to people talking to me. It's like, it's so beautiful. The way you play with music.
Yes.
Depending on what you're talking about and the type of music you play.
Oh, you picked it up.
I got it.
That's beautiful.
So I like when you say, let me tell you a story. And then, it's beautiful, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We'll have you back soon. It's a minute before 11.
Hi, I'm Pete Goffwood, Food Forward SA brand ambassador. No one should go hungry, especially over the festive season. Yet in South Africa, millions of people face food insecurity every day. This festive season, Food Forward SA is raising funds to distribute 5,000 festive food boxes, which will provide 25 million meals to families in need. For just 500 Rand, you can spread the love by sponsoring a festive food box packed with nutritious food. To donate, visit foodforwardsa.org today.
The crazy store's got deals galore and everything you need. From tinsel presents, wrapping, and a star for your Christmas tree. We've got all sorts of games and sports, many toys to buy. Stationery, arts and crafts, come on and don't be shy. No need to panic shop, we're your one-stop Christmas spot. Your table will be dressed and you will not be stressed. When Christmas Eve is here, you'll want to sing and cheer. I got everything at the crazy store and I can't wait for next year.
Hey, you never know what you might find this Christmas.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct to give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Confirmation that as a consumer, you're feeling a little more confident than you were a few months ago, but you're still feeling less confident than over the longer term average.
There were a number of positive developments that contributed to this relatively positive outcome. The first is that we are in an environment where inflation is stable, food inflation has come down a little bit. From the time of the previous survey to this current survey, we've seen fuel prices going down. We've also seen interest rates coming down.
Sipamandla Mkwanazi is the senior economist.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show, Stephen Curtis, is brought to you by ABSA CIB. Invested in your story because your story matters. ABSA is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Time for the news. This Eyewitness News is brought to you by Vouch. Hassle-free insurance is possible with your Vouch advisor. Vouch SA is an authorized financial services provider. T&Cs apply.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. We start with news just in. Justice Minister Mamloko Kubai says the department has been slapped with a letter from the DA's lawyers seeking to interdict interviews for the post of the National Director of Public Prosecutions. A panel is expected to select a candidate who will succeed Advocate Shamila Batoyi once the interviews are completed. Batoyi's term ends at the end or comes at the end of next month. Speaking ahead of the interviews this morning, Kubai says the DA has threatened to approach the court if the process goes ahead.
The letter is dated the 7th, but was received by us as the panel today, so we had to reflect on it. I will not go into detail because we do believe that this is self-inflicted agency.
Acting Police Minister Firoz Kachalia says more than 10,000 murder charges were referred for prosecution in the 2024-2025 financial year alone. But Kachalia says there are interventions that have been agreed upon to improve the murder detection rate, like focusing on murder cases with forensic leads. Kachalia was responding in a written parliamentary reply about what his department is doing in trying to mitigate the high murder rates in the country. Babalundenze reports.
According to the latest quarterly crime statistics, murders decreased in South Africa during the first and second quarters of the current financial year. But the stats still show how 63 people are murdered in the country every day, with more than 11,500 murders over the same period. In a written parliamentary reply this week, Acting Police Minister Firoz Kachalia says 10,074 charges of murder have been referred for prosecution in the last financial year. But Kachalia says there are interventions like the prioritization of murder cases with forensic investigative leads in cooperation with the police's forensic science laboratory. Kachalia also states that there is the enhancement of tracing operations on wanted known suspects as a key element of Operation Shanela 2, which is a weekly high-density operation that is conducted in all high crime station areas countrywide. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News.
The Agricultural Business Chamber has again raised concerns about what is labelled as poor coordination among some countries in the Southern African Customs Union. This follows Botswana's decision to reintroduce import bans on key vegetables due to their relatively high local production and availability. Nokayam Dambo has the details.
Agbiz chief economist Wandile Slobo says implementing bans on agricultural products on short notice with limited communication to other countries has become a worrying trend. Slobo says this raises questions about regional trade integration and policy coordination.
So for our economic diplomacy thinking, we are now running into a lot of friction here, which is why I always argue that SACU needs to be reviewed. both for easing our trade agreement, but also for easing up the friction that we currently see, so that the South African businesses can plan well on what to do in this.
While he admits there's a need to support local farmers and reduce their dependence on South Africa, Slobo says he's uneasy with the drastic policy changes with minimal consideration for regional ambitions. He says South Africa's response will need to be sensitive but firm. Nogukhanya Mdambo, Eyewitness News.
And Brazil's parliament has descended into chaos as conservative lawmakers continue to push a law which would reduce the prison sentence of former President Jair Bolsonaro. One lawmaker was forcibly removed by police after trying to disrupt proceedings, while footage shows scuffles breaking out as security tries to restore order. Bolsonaro began a 27-year jail term last month for attempting to plot a coup following his 2022 election defeat. Gold is trading at $4,213.15 an ounce. The rand is at 17.03 to the dollar, 22.67 to the pound, 19.81 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $61.98 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays in Spruitview along the N3 South. This is between Heidelberg Road and Leondale Road. That's due to an accident between these 2 points. Please be on the lookout there. While traveling in Alexandra, traffic remains heavily backed up on the N3 North between Vincent Chabalala Road and Marlborough Drive, and that's due to roadworks.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with afternoon showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 26 and 28 degrees. The breaking story in EW and this hour, Justice Minister Mamloko Kubayi says they have received a letter from the DA's lawyers seeking to interdict interviews for the post of the National Director of Public Prosecutions.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Let's be honest, no one actually reads the fine print. Those exclusions and clauses, clever wording that sounds helpful but isn't. And that's the thing with insurance. Everyone thinks they can do it themselves until boom, something goes wrong. That's where Vouch pulls through. Real advice, real people who actually know what repudiation means. Being smart isn't about knowing everything, it's about knowing who to ask.
Vouch, someone on the inside, on your side. Vouch SA is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. Time now for our Listener's Choice feature.
Burning questions.
Insightful answers.
Listener's Choice.
With Clement Manyathela.
And today on our Listener's Choice, we are focusing on the process that's currently underway, the recruitment of the next NDPP. This is the head of the National Prosecuting Authority. The process has officially begun today, and this marks an important moment for the justice system because the NPA head, remember, Advocate Shamila Batohi, is preparing to retire in January. So as we said even on the open line, there's a total of 30 people that applied for the position, and there was an advisory panel that then sort of brought about the names of 6 people. I don't want to say shortlisted because the minister actually said the 6 people that are now being interviewed were not really shortlisted, but these are people who met the minimum requirements. So, which is concerning because the Minister of Justice said during an interview I did with her about 2 weeks ago, she said that they were at least hoping for about 15 candidates that they can shortlist. But now they only had about 6 that meet the minimum requirements out of the 32 candidates that applied for the job. And when I asked her what they discussed as a panel as the reasons why people are not applying for the job of NDPP, she mentioned three reasons. One, they believe that there are people who are afraid of what's happening at the different inquiries where the NPA head is being asked some really tough questions during her testimony. Remember, the Nkabinde inquiry is taking place, but also the ad hoc committee, Advocate Batohi, appeared before that parliamentary committee. The minister also mentioned that the other issue is that this is a poisoned chalice. Like people, I mean, Shamila Batohi is the only one who is actually finishing her term. I mean, who else has actually finished their term as the head of the of the NPA? So she's going on retirement. She hasn't been pushed out necessarily. She's going on retirement because that has come before the term actually ends. So the other issue is that it's just a poison chalice. And then, of course, there's also the issue of the salary. There are people who have worked for too many years. They've been in private practice. Even if they would like to give this job a try, the salary is just a deterrent because it's not competitive. So we're looking at this process that's currently underway. The interviews are taking place as we speak now. In fact, today and tomorrow in Pretoria. And they're going to be taken live as well. There are a few people, 6 of the people being interviewed: Nicolette Bell, Hemion Cronier, Andrea Johnson, who's the head of IDEC, Olisile Kanyile, Adrian Mob, and the former NDPP Menzisi Melani. As you've heard on Eyewitness News, the Justice Minister has now confirmed that they received a letter from the DA's lawyers seeking to interdict the interviews for the post of the National Director of Public Prosecutions. And one of the issues that have been raised before was the inclusion of Menzisi Melani on that list of 6 people that are going to be interviewed. Let's bring in now Advocate Stephanie Fick, who is the Executive Director of the Accountability Division at OUTA, who's going to guide us through this conversation. I'll take your calls as well. Remember, I asked you earlier on if you have one specific person you think can do this job better. I've mentioned a few of them. Is there one that you think you favor so far? Or do you want to wait until the interview process and pick up who's doing who's answering what questions, and then you can make up your minds? Or do you already know who you think can be a good NDPP to replace Shamila Batohi? Give us a call on 011-883-0702, or you can send a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. Advocate Fick, thank you so much for making time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Only a pleasure.
Let's start with, and we'll get to this legal letter that the panel has received, but let's look at this moment that we find ourselves in where the interviews are now being conducted. What does the start of the NDPP interview process actually signify for our justice system right now?
Well, I think it's just a normal process because the current NDPP is retiring. So we need someone that can, take the NPA and take it into the future. What is worrying about this process, except for, the candidates and that they meet the minimum requirements and all of that, is the fact that they waited so long to start this process. It is the 10th of December. She's retiring at the end of January. What are you going to get in terms of handover? So we are not even talking about...
Advocate Fick? Okay, something is happening there. Advocate Fick, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Sorry, you got cut off there earlier on. Please, if you can continue your point, yeah?
Yeah, so if you think about the time that is left for whoever they picked at the end of this interviews and all of that, how long time will this new incumbent have to actually take over from Shamila Batoy. So I think they left it too late. Now they are leaving half of the assembly. I mean, everyone is on leave and everyone is shutting down in order to have a well-deserved break. Now they are looking for a incumbent of a very, very important position, a position that we've seen in the past has created problems. I mean, a number of the incumbents have been removed. So didn't they leave this a tad too late? And I think one should rather take your time in getting the right person than getting a person in order to fill this position.
And I suppose the reason I'm asking about what this process signifies for our justice system is because there are some South Africans who feel like, the head of the NPA has not really been able to do what she promised she would do when she got the job. There are people who are feeling frustrated about the lack of prosecutions, especially on state capture cases, lack of prosecutions when it comes to high-profile cases. So there's currently, this level of frustration in as far as our justice system is concerned. And I wonder how intentional then this panel is going to be to ensure that they really get South Africa the best of the best, because we need to see these prosecutions. What qualities and competencies should the panel be prioritizing as they interview these candidates?
Sure. So let's go through them. I think I share, the listeners' frustration with what have we seen the NPA do. And I think one of the answers is I think that there's too much political interference. Plus, the NPA form part of a whole criminal justice system. The NPA can prosecute, but the NPA can't prosecute if a court doesn't work. The NPA can't prosecute if there's no investigations. So it doesn't help fixing only the NPA. You need someone there in charge of the NPA that can take the NPA forward, that can have these discussions, that can stand up to political interference, that's independent, that will prosecute without fear and favor, and that will have the best interest of South Africa at heart. That is, at no stretch of the imagination, politically involved. So you need a strong, independent person that can stand up, like I said, to political interference and really take South Africa's worries, South Africa's frustration, and turn it around and say, we are looking at an NPA that will fight for, I want to say, the ordinary South African.
Yeah, and then from your perspective, though, what are the most urgent challenges you think are facing the NPA, and how should these interviews test whether those candidates can address them? I know, it's sometimes it's easy for us to criticize the lack of prosecutions, but there are nuances also here, and I'm not suggesting here that there have not been any failures to prosecute. There have been. We've spoken about it on the show before. But I'm saying there are issues around budget cuts, for instance.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want a well-capable NPA, you want the best of the best as prosecutors, you've got to be able to capacitate the NPA and, so that it's able to do that job effectively. It's not just about political interference. It's about the capacity of that institution as well. And you've got to ask the question of whether or not they are set up to fail, or if indeed they've got the capacity that they need.
A very good question, because I think a lot of other civil activist organizations has been fighting for, the independence of the NPA. So to go back to what you are querying, is the NPA is, let's call it a department within, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. The head of the NPA does not have control over salaries, for example, doesn't have control over how much budget is allocated to the NPA in order to get people with experience and all of that. And then again, you have to see the NPA in the bigger picture, which includes the police. Well, at the Matlanga Commission, we've seen the problems that we are currently facing with the police. The police are solely responsible for a lot of the investigations, on the ground intelligence, making sure that hotspots are, looked after, that we investigate the corruption cases, the racketeering cases. If we do not have the investigative capabilities, you can build the NPA as much as you like. You're not going to get anywhere. And then our courtrooms. Do we have the number of interpreters we need in order to deal with a long court case? Because we have accused that has got the right to hear, the proceedings in their mother tongues. So the NPA is but one clock in the wheel of the whole, the wheel of justice. But I do think, so if you ask any incumbent of this office, what are you going to do? My answer is going to be, it doesn't matter what this person answers. They have to look up to their they have to look at the department firstly, and then obviously the minister, and is so dependent on that political will, what happens in the NPA, that I think one of the deterring reasons why we do not have an enormous amount of candidates is just that you can promise the world. There's some things you will never be able to deliver on if your department and the political will is not there to change how we deal with prosecutions.
Yeah, and speaking of some of the candidates, I mean, the minister, when I interviewed her 2 weeks ago, she said that it's actually quite concerning that there are only 6 people who are meeting the minimum criteria, but also they were hoping that there were going to be quite a lot of people, probably in their hundreds, who are going to apply for this job. But not so much because, one, people see it as a poison chalice. They know that historically, if history is anything to go by, they're going to get this job and they're probably going to be out of a job because maybe there are politicians who are going to feel like you're not listening to us, you're not taking the pressure, so out. There are people who feel like, yes, I may be appointed now, but Cyril Ramaphosa is not going to be here in 5 years' time. So what if there's a new president who comes in who wants their own NPA head, if, of course, the ANC will still have more influence in this GNU, or they win a majority of government, or in fact, it's another party that wins elections. What if they want their own NDPP? But also the issue of salary that is not competitive, and the pressure, because people see the head of the NPA appearing at these commissions, so they think to themselves, is this going to be my life where I get asked these tough questions publicly like that? So that becomes pretty tricky. But I want to get your thoughts on what was in the news now, where the Justice Minister is confirming that they've received a letter from the DA lawyers seeking to interdict the interviews. And as you know, there have been issues raised about Advocate Menzi Simelane because he has been the head of the NPA before. He clearly wants that job back, but there are some concerns around his not just capacity, but his integrity, because there was a matter in the Johannesburg bar. He was investigated, and the bar now once have taken him to court. So there's a process that's currently underway. Do you think that him being allowed to be part of the 6 somehow muddies this process?
I do think so. I think that, and I think it comes back to the amount of time they have left in order to pick this new, the new NDPP, it does raise questions, unfortunately, that out of a big pool from, the different bar associations, attorneys out there, etc., you have 6 candidates. That's not shortlisted. That, according to the minister, is the only ones, that fulfills the minimum requirements. And then you have a candidate. I mean, there's quite a number of candidates there that, for a personal view, that has got questions marked. Now, I feel sorry for anybody that's now going to go through interviews. You are going to be put under a microscope, and everybody's going to have different opinions. But at the end, this is a very public process. It should be transparent. And that if you have one incumbent that, just on the face of it, without digging deeper, appears to not be, a good candidate for the position. And that if, say, for instance, 5 of the others fall out, are you going to appoint this person? And I think that the answer should be no. You should be looking for the person that will fulfill this position in the best interest of, South Africa, and that you shouldn't pick someone because we're running out of time. I heard something very interesting here, and I think this sort of speaks to the problems that the NDPP will be any new NDPP will face. Is that the number of investigators that we had with the Zondo Commission was more than the current ID has. Now let that sink in. A commission whose recommendations we are not, convinced has been implemented, that there's no political will to implement it, had more investigators that the current ID has that is supposed to investigate and prosecute big corruption cases. Now, where is how does that make sense? And that is the type of thing that your NDPP is going to be, face, and budget cuts and all of that. So I don't envy the position, and I think that's the problem. No one, envies the position, because what really will they be able to achieve? Yes, you can create a positive working environment, which I think a lot of prosecutors need. There are some good people out there that only want to do their jobs. But unfortunately, you have the bad apples in management, and they need to build the trust, because people they don't trust the NPA currently.
So there are some people who, following the comment the minister made about how some of the candidates are just scared of being interviewed publicly. And I remember the minister saying, well, if you're going to be the NDPP, that's the kind of thing you're going to be engaging in consistently. You have to hold media briefings. You have to be held accountable in the media. You've got to address, members of the public. You've got to address the stuff. You're a leader, so you've got to be able to engage on issues. But then there's a question also that other people have been asking about whether what we are seeing here is not a deterrent. You are being grilled by panel members for several hours, and that is happening in full view of the cameras. Do you think that is a deterrent? Because, I am on radio every single day, Advocate Fick, but I don't know if I've got the capacity and the bravery to sit in front of a panel for 2 hours being interviewed and taking a job interview. And that's happening publicly. The cameras are watching. It's live. Yeah. People criticize you as you go.
That is unfortunately part of the job. We've moved into an era where everything is on TV. Unfortunately, due to a number of reasons, we need transparency. Because the trust deficit we have with government, unfortunately, requires us to say, but we want to see it being transparent. What I do not agree with, and what I've seen in the past, is also, this political ball that is being played by political parties, that they ask absolute ridiculous questions. That is really just you playing to the TV. And without criticizing the DA directly, I have to ask, again, it's a political party that's trying to stop this process. I haven't read their papers, so I really can't say. But sometimes you feel that this is a bit of a political ball, a party leader sitting there asking questions and wanting to win, score a political point. That is also what the process is not about. But a person that is willing to take up this position, I agree with you. This is a leader. This is a person that will face hard questions. This is a leader that, for this specific position, has to take an organization and create trust with the public, and will have to withstand some scrutiny. That's part of the job. If you can't, if you can't stand up to the bullies out there, then you shouldn't be applying for this position. You must also just remember that these are also incumbents that is used to the criminal justice system. If you are an advocate, if you are an attorney, you are used to an adversarial system. We have an adversarial system. So you have two advocates fighting opposites of a point. There's always someone that's going to disagree with you. And you need to be able to, whether everybody agrees with you or not, will have to fight for your point. So when I say there's part of this process that I think people in the legal fraternities are sort of used to people attacking them from a number of ways. But I sometimes just think that it gets out of hand. And who is responsible? There, I said the panel is responsible to make sure that the decorum in that is also upheld.
Absolutely. And the nice thing with this panel is that it's not a political process, unlike when there are judges in the JSC that are being interviewed where political parties are represented. Part of the panel here, Professor Somatota Fikeni is the chairperson of the Public Service Commission. Brilliant mind, a rational man. You've got Zakani Maluleke as well, who's part of the panel, who is the Auditor General, South Africa's Auditor General. There's Ntabi Singh Sipanya Mogale, who is an advocate. There is Nkosana Mvundlela, who is an attorney and is the current president of the Black Lawyers Association. So at least we don't have to worry about panel members veering off what they're supposed to ask, which is within the scope of the work of an NDPP or what happens in the criminal justice system. At least we've got panel members that are probably going to ask some really, really good questions. So that's what's happening today and tomorrow. We're trying to find a new NPA head. Advocate Stephanie Fick, thank you so much for talking to us about this process that's unfolding over the next 2 days. She's the Executive Director of the Accountability Division at OUTA. That takes us to 11:31. Bali has the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Good morning.
Thanks, Clement. A very good morning. Justice Minister Mamoloko Kubai says they have received a letter from the DA's lawyers seeking to interdict interviews for the post of the National Director of Public Prosecutions. A panel is expected to select a candidate who will succeed Advocate Shamila Batoy once the interviews are completed. Batoy's terms comes to an end next month. Slain Alexandra Taxi Association Chairman Vusi Mayaba has been described as a leader who left a meaningful impact on the industry. Mayaba is being remembered at a memorial service being held today in Sandton. He was shot dead in the parking lot of a Woodmead shopping centre last week. And as 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children comes to an end today, the Department of Social Development is hopeful government's classification of gender-based violence and femicide as a national disaster will expand support for survivors. Acting spokesperson for the department, Sandy Kodwana, says the classification should lead to improved coordination between the justice, health as well as education sectors. Those are the headlines this EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Travelling on the N3 North, we still have got delays between Van Buren Road and the Kilulis interchange. There's also bumper-to-bumper traffic on the R21 South in Isando. This is due to the roadworks that are taking place as R24 East, between the OR Tambo interchange and Barber Road. While travelling on the N3 North in the Alexandra area, roadworks are causing delays between Vincent Chabalala Road and Marlborough Drive. There's also queuing traffic along the M1 North between Grayston Drive and Marlborough Drive. Please be on the lookout there. While travelling on the N1 North towards Fourways, expect delays coming out of Malibongwe Drive, about a 15-minute hold-up along this route. And in Spruitview, queuing traffic along the N3 South between Harderbeck Road and Lewandale Road due to an accident. More updates at the top of the hour with Karabo Jale. Otherwise, that's your last traffic update from me, Amo Ramela. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Sharing Space
on the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
It's 11:33 and time for the Sharing Space. This is where we share our stories about things that have really happened in our lives. It could be at work, it could be in your family while you're on holiday, something that is concerning you, something you need advice about. You send us an email on cm@702.co.za and we'll bring some of your stories that you're sharing with us on air. You can share them anonymously. And if you're looking for advice from listeners, that's what we'll get the listeners to do for you. We do this every single Wednesday at 11:30. So I'm going to read an email that we've received, and then I'm going to go to your calls and your WhatsApps. You can share your own experiences if you have experienced something similar, or if indeed this listener is asking for advice and you've got some advice, please be kind enough to share that. Here we go. Greetings, Clement. My ex-husband and I have been divorced for 3 years now. Okay. We have a restaurant that we both loved visiting. I'm actually the one who introduced him to the restaurant, and as a family, we have loved it since. My ex stayed away from the restaurant for some time after the divorce, but has recently started visiting it again. I take my kids to this restaurant often, and my kids were excited one day when they saw their dad there. He was there with a lady, supposedly on a date. I have since seen him at the restaurant again with the woman he is dating. I honestly find this to be offensive because we share a lot. We were married for 10 years and we still both reside in the same neighborhood, but I find it disrespectful for him to take his girlfriend to a space he knows I hold dear. We used to celebrate our anniversaries at this restaurant and used to go with our kids. It was our family restaurant. I feel petty because this is not the worst thing to happen to me, but I can't shake the feeling that this space should be sacred for what it meant to our marriage. Should I ask him to stop going to the restaurant? I am really not sure how to handle this. Please, can you ask your listeners if they've got some advice for me? Anonymous. Okay, Anonymous. So Anonymous has been married to this man. They have been divorced now. Jeez, it's been 3 years. Okay, they've been divorced now for 3 years, but they were married for about 10 years or so. And as a family, so while they were still married, they had kids. And as a family, there's a restaurant that this woman, now the ex-wife, introduced their ex-husband to when they were married. And they used to take their kids there. So this was like their lovely, restaurant as a family. And this woman now says, my ex-husband now comes to the same restaurant with his new partner. Even though the husband knows that the kids love this restaurant. And this is a restaurant that she introduced to him when they were still together. And she is now finding it offensive that the ex-husband is now bringing his new partner to this restaurant, and sometimes the kids see him with this woman and she doesn't know how to deal with it. Is she being petty? I mean, she does acknowledge that this is not the worst thing to happen to me, but she just can't shake the feeling that this space should be sacred for what it's meant or what it meant for their marriage. What do you think? Do you think Anonymous should tell the husband, yo, please, can you respect our sacred space? This was our family restaurant. Maybe go to another restaurant when you want to go on a date. But what if the husband loves this restaurant? What if the husband also, this has become his favorite restaurant? So he must be scared to go there because you introduced it to him? I don't know. These are just the questions I'm asking myself. Anonymous, honestly, I think the best way to do it is just let it go. I really think, because what do you say? Hey, stop coming to this restaurant. I think you just, either you decide to stop going to that restaurant with the kids and go to other restaurants for peace sake. Or you explain to the kids that, listen, time to time we're going to come across Daddy and his new partner at this restaurant, so do not be surprised or alarmed, so prepare the kids around it. Angazi, I don't know. I think that's probably, if I was in your shoes, that's probably something I would do. Otherwise, you're going to get into an unnecessary debate and fight about who's entitled to that space. Because honestly, neither of you are. But I appreciate that this is a space that used to be a family restaurant. So what do you advise Anonymous to do? But also, I'd like to know if you've been in the same situation before. Like, are there specific things that you used to go to with your partner, your husband, your wife, your partner, and now you're divorced or you have separated and you've decided to appreciate that holiday destination was for us? Like maybe you and your ex-husband or ex-wife or ex-partner used to go to this specific place. This was your place of restoration, a place of reconnection. Maybe it's a holiday destination. Maybe it's a restaurant. And you know that your partner is always going to love that place. Maybe they introduced you to it. Do you stop going there and you find other places? Let me know. 011-883-0702. You can send your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
Is this city power, from your understanding, Is this their move to try and be less dependent on entrepreneurs? Because questions have been raised about issues of pricing, for example.
So it's all very confusing, to be honest, because on the one level, there was this whole thing about this contract for 263 million that was given to two 20-year-olds that were running the water tanker contracts in Joburg. And everyone was like, well, these people have no experience. So they have that contract. Joburg Water has not paid contractors.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Enjoy the thrill of the Soccer Punches Challenge, Weekend Edition, an all-new platform from Hollywood Bets. You stand a chance to win a share of the 5 million rand jackpot when you bet 5 rand or more on selected EPL matches over the weekend and correctly predict 10 out of 10 winning margins. Or chase the share of the 50,000 rand leaderboard prize. Entry is free. Let this soccer season bring sizzling success. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Some numbers bring instant stress, like a speeding fine, another petrol price hike, or that one debit order you forgot about. Again. But not all numbers bring panic. Some bring calm and actual life-saving support. With 24/7 emergency support and over 300 ambulances, ER24 is there when you need us most. Don't wait for an emergency. See it, say it, save it. 084 124.
Giant steps for mankind have never been very comfortable.
Houston, can I get an ETA? Over.
Still 3 days, 17 hours to landing. Over.
Until now. Take a giant leap forward for mankind in the new C10 range-extending EV with heated seats, surround view camera, and a 970-kilometer range. Visit leapmotor.net to book a test drive today. Leap Motor, the next step.
The Sharing Space
on the Clement Manyathela Show.
702.
18 minutes before 12 o'clock. What advice do you have for Anonymous? And have you been in the same shoes? Neo, you are in for is. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. I think the lady's in love with the poor gentleman.
Which is understandable, right?
Yeah, which is understandable, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. And you just need to, the fact that you've got like jealousy, the fact that you don't want me to go there in your absence, it tells you something that you're still in love with the person, which is okay with it.
No, in the presence, not in her absence.
In the presence.
So her issue is...
Yeah, in the present, yes. And then secondly now, the other flip side of it is as follows as well. The gentleman as well would be, might be like playing naughty, and this is what guys will do. Just to prove to you that, the horse that I'm riding now is actually a different horse than what I had before, just to this is more beautiful than the other one. It's just the way guys will do it as well, unfortunately,
Yeah,
and you've said it nicely that both of them are not entitled to that particular restaurant. It's okay with it. But the guys all might be playing naughty as well.
Yeah, so maybe the guy is planning to play some games, which is a bit childish, man. Like, Sibatala, man. We are adults.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I get your point, Neo, in 4 ways. Thank you for your call. Bongi, you are in Joburg. What do you think?
Hi, Clement. I would like to use an analogy in this situation. Let's say I was introduced by my partner to eating prawns, and then prawns was our thing, that we shared all the time and enjoyed. Then our relationship doesn't work out. And if I meet somebody in future, does it mean we're not going to eat prawns, or I'm not going to eat prawns, or I'm not going to enjoy prawns because I own, that kind of sharing with the previous partner? So in my opinion, I think she has to make peace with it. She has to also accept that it doesn't nullify whatever they had in that particular space. It's still a cherished memory or a cherished experience. So she has to keep it, that way and make peace, because it doesn't nullify that. And it's a free world. They live in the same neighborhood. Maybe there aren't a lot of options. So she just needs to make peace. And I agree with you in terms of also preparing the kids, to accept and understand that this is a possibility. when they go to that space, they might meet their dad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Bongi, in Joburg, thank you so much. Let's go to your WhatsApps.
I understand how you're feeling, my sister. What you're gonna do is just back off. Look for another restaurant for you and your children, because going there will also aggravate your anger. And there's no way you will tell him not to come there, because he's also got right to come to wherever he wants to come. May God strengthen you.
Hi, Clement. Advice to Anonymous regarding the restaurant matter. I really think Anonymous should just take a step back and choose another restaurant. Either she has to now find a restaurant that she loves in comparison to the one that she's speaking about in the story, or she can find a franchise. Is it not possible for her to find a franchise of the same restaurant in another area? Because now she's going to be seeing her ex-husband with the kids. It's going to be so uncomfortable, and she can't expect him to now change the restaurant location or find another restaurant for her, because they're no longer a couple. So I think she needs to choose her peace and either change the restaurant and find another one that she likes, or or maybe find the same in a different location. But I think it's a bit unfair to tell the ex-husband to say, look, please stop coming, because you can't control where people go and what people do. So I think for peace sake, she needs to just find an alternative. Kia from Pretoria.
I agree with you, Kia. I agree with you. Also, someone is suggesting that maybe they need to discuss in advance. If are you going? Hey, how are you? I'm planning to go to the restaurant tonight. Are you planning to go? Or hey, this weekend I'm planning to go. Are you? Guys, that's a lot of work, honestly. That's a lot of work. Anonymous, I say find your own. It's okay to build new memories. If the kids maybe say, no, mommy, we missed the place and we want to go there, explain to the kids that, listen, when we go there, we may come across daddy with someone else. And don't speak bad about daddy and say, just daddy will may be there with someone else. I hope you guys will understand. And, and maybe even be honest with the kids if really that situation makes you feel awkward, right? It makes me feel awkward because we used to come here as a family, and here we are now. I'm here with you guys, and here he is with his new person, and it makes me feel a little awkward, and that's why I really don't like us going there anymore. You'd be surprised. Kids are quite understanding. They're quite understanding. So maybe have a chat with them for your peace sake. But yeah, I mean, it's quite weird for the husband as well to just rock up and jail. And I'm not saying he shouldn't go on a date to his own favorite restaurant, but you've had a family, you've had kids. There are considerations to make, and I just wish it could be considered. I hope it is considered from his side, and I hope he cares about the fact that they're now arriving here separately, and wife comes with kids, he comes with this woman. I hope there's at least a consideration. Ahmad, you are in Annandale. What are your thoughts?
Clement, I think they must work out like a calendar. If they're on speaking terms, that the husband or she notifies the husband that she wants to go to that restaurant on that certain date. Then they notify each other, and then they would avoid each other.
Geez, the whole calendar, Ahmad.
Yeah,
because sometimes you want to be spontaneous.
No, man, Clement. If it's a problem, how do you then resolve this? If I want to go on the 26th, I notify her I'm going to that restaurant on the 26th. And then she knows that she mustn't come to the restaurant on the 26th. That's not simple. It's not. This is not something difficult. You don't speak in terms, you can work it out.
Okay, Ahmad in Annandale. A calendar, he says.
Hi, Clement and the listeners. Hi, this lady. Unfortunately, you are unable to predict what the next person is going to do or how the next person is going to behave. Only she has control of her behavior and the kids. She needs to stop going there. Finish and clear. She needs to stop going there. Unfortunately, some things in life comes to an end. she needs to come to terms with that.
Hi, Clement. I hear what the lady is saying from a sentimental value and memories perspective. If her logic holds that the restaurant was their secret place, their sacred space, it was their recharging spot, as lovers, then she might as well say that he should not sleep with any other person in his body because, the body holds certain memories for her, that he must not kiss other women because his lips are the same lips that kissed her. Where does it start and end? I think part of her healing is to let go of those memories, is to create new memories. And one day she can commiserate about the past life, or she can celebrate the past life, but she cannot stand still and expect her ex to also do the same. Thanks, Baba.
Hi, good afternoon, Clemza, and good afternoon to the 702 lenders. Clemza, Anonymous must tell the husband to stop going there. It's simple. He must stop going there because he knows it's a place his kids used to frequent and they love frequenting that place. He should stop being insensitive to his children and show them some respect and respect his wife as well. And he must just stop it, man. He must be a grown-up. So Anonymous must tell him, no, find another spot. Go find another special spot with your concubine, not this one.
I think in that case, surely the children visit their dad and they've met the girlfriend, the new partner, whatever. It's been 3 years. So I think the only person who's uncomfortable is the former wife. So, yeah, I think it's her problem completely. I'm sure the kids get on very well with the partner. Otherwise, the dad probably wouldn't let her see them. I don't know. Strange.
Yeah, and Anonymous in this email doesn't really tell us if the kids know the lady, because the email says, I take my kids to this restaurant often, and my kids were excited one day when they saw their dad, but the dad was there with a lady, supposedly on a date. My assumption, reading that sentence, is that, okay, the dad was just on a date. Maybe the dad, was just trying to figure it out with this lady. So maybe that is not the actual partner. And what if it was the first date? Because the ex-husband is entitled to also go on a date, right? Even if it is the first date with that woman. I'm just saying that, just be considerate a little bit. And being considerate doesn't mean you're going to end up not going to the restaurant. It means at least you have actually thought about it and you know how you're going to broach the discussion should you get there and the kids are there and they come and say hi, or your ex-wife is there, and so that you are not shocked and you don't know how to respond. At least consider it, think about it a bit. And for me, that shows that you are a considerate person and you realize that this is not a random space. Oh, let's just meet there at the corner of this and that. This is actually a space that used to mean something for you and your family. It was sacred for you guys. But new memories, I suppose, need to be created. I do know that there are some people who will take offense if you take them on a date to a restaurant that used to be your ex's restaurant. There are people like that. The minute you say, I used to come here with my ex-wife or my ex-husband or my ex-partner, they get offended because they feel like you are still hanging on to the old memories and they want to be able to enjoy time with you and build new memories with you.
Look, Clement, I think both they are allowed to go to that restaurant, Anonymous and the husband. My problem now is the kids. I think this man should step aside because of now the kids will see him with the girlfriend and stuff. It's not nice. I think the man should walk away and leave the wife and spend time with the kids in that restaurant, because that will be a drama, you understand? Yeah, no, I don't like it. The man should stay away. Yeah, but all in all, they are allowed to go there because now the kids, it's a very difficult situation. The man, stay away, my brother, to avoid the drama, the dramas in the restaurants. It's not nice. It's not nice. Clement, nice show. Thank you.
Hi, Clement.
I think the lady is getting it wrong. If maybe they had an agreement, they could sign a contract, so like that, then she got grounds. But now, no, I don't think so.
Hey, Clemza, the truth is there is no right or wrong answer to Anonymous's question. However, what we can take from it for her benefit is the reality of grief not being a linear process, and one can imagine the feelings that are triggered given what the space meant to them for her to now see him with someone else, and it obviously triggers and reminds her of what they have lost together. And the reality of grief is that the more these feelings are triggered and we are no longer able to escape them, is the more we heal. And so as hard as it is, and as selfish as it may seem, understandably so from her perspective, it is also helping her heal beyond what anyone could ever offer her. And so, yeah, that would be my advice, to embrace this as an opportunity to continue engaging those difficult feelings of loss of a relationship that she held dear.
Clem, Kitato, I hope you're good. Clem, now I'm from the school of we must communicate, especially if we're co-parenting. We must communicate fully. So if she feels some kind of way about what she feels, she must communicate it to him, that I'm not trying to control your movement. I'm not trying to say to you, this is what you must do or where you should go. You're an adult. But just know that this is what it makes me feel, or this is what it makes the kids feel. So that if he chooses to proceed, then we're all on the same page in terms of how certain things make us feel. Because I believe to co-parent, we must both be happy. And if we can play a role in ensuring that both of us have peace as we co-parent, then you're going to raise solid kids. Because for me, the long and the short is what's in the best interest of the kids. How do we raise solid kids? How do we raise well-adjusted kids? Love you, Clem. Sharp.
And for me, that's it, hey? It's about the kids. Like, can we put our feelings aside as parents and just think about the kids for a moment? And the minute there's that consideration, I think we'll be good. Anonymous, all the best. It's 3 minutes before 12.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
The conversation around protection of whistleblowers continues. Not all whistleblowers are entirely innocent. Some whistleblowers are disgruntled participants in some of the crimes that they are now blowing the whistle about. Not all whistleblowers, I would argue, deserve the same kind of protection. I argue that you can't compare Babita Deokra with a Marius van der Merwe. They are not of the same fabric, morally speaking, ethically speaking.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Last December, you put in new floors. Come New Year's, your visitors were out the door. And the new floor went from fresh tiles to don't step on a crack or you'll break umama's back. Now, abantu bazotini when they see the kids playing the Squid Game's hopscotch on those same cracked tiles from last year. Avoid the embarrassment this festive. Make smarter decisions for your home. Visit Cash Build for quality tiles, adhesive and tools at the lowest prices. Cash Bill.
Business Outsurance are experts in business insurance for general practitioners, dentists, surgeons, and other medical specialists. Kuveni.
It's so nice to know the business risk is taken care of by Business Outsurance. The call center was just a dream to deal with. Very seamless, easy experience, and it just feels like the people we're talking to on the other line understand our needs.
Switch to Business Outsurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Visit outsurance.co.za. Switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Selling your car? Don't change your festive plans. WeBuyCars will come to you and handle it in a flash. Simply complete the form on webuycars.co.za to get your offer. Gifting yourself a new ride? Well, visit WeBuyCars online or at any branch to find the car on your wish list. WeBuyCars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
Good morning, Mandy.
Good morning, Clement.
Are you good? You shocked that I'm wearing my indoor glasses?
Why are you wearing sunglasses
They're
inside?
indoor glasses.
Those are sunglasses. They are for outside land.
No, they're not. This is I've got the similar glasses and I've got two lenses. This is an indoor one.
Listen, Nothing can be worse than Bongani's Crocs.
Actually, I'll take that. What's coming up in the midday report?
The DA has threatened to interdict the interviews for the new NDPP, but those interviews are currently
Is it
underway.
because of Menzi Simelani's
Well, I don't
candidature?
know, actually, because we're trying to speak to the DA about it, and they're not speaking. So I assume it's about Menzi Simelani. It may be about the process as well. It might be that it's so late. I don't know. The South African Social Reconciliation Barometer has been released. We'll look at Australia's social media ban for kids and what it could mean for us. That came into effect today. So we're going to have a look at what that means. And then there's a post-cabinet briefing as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's what's coming up on the Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. Thank you for listening to the Wednesday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. Let's chat again tomorrow between 9 and 12. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. Interviews for the post of the National Director of Public Prosecutions are continuing despite attempts by the DA to halt prosecutions